Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Building a pirate group. The crew is the villain of all worlds. Chapter 21. Now that he is famous, what are the consequences? Naturally, more people know about Kuruda and his friends. At this time, Kuruda is the one who has gained the most. The shock and surprise from many people are all converted into reputation points. Now Kuruda can be said to have made a lot of money in the past few days. Although it is not cash, that is, Bailey, Kuruda is a time traveler after all. For a time traveler, if there is a system mall, the currency that can be purchased in the mall is naturally more valuable than the world he travels through. So for now, earning reputation points is what Kuruda has to do first. Seeing the prompt in the system, Kuruda was so happy. Congratulations on getting 100 reputation points from Admiral Sengoku. Congratulations on getting 100 reputation points from Navy Chief of Staff Suru. Congratulations on getting 100 reputation points from Navy Hero Garp. Congratulations on getting 80 reputation points from each of the 3 admirals of the Navy. Congratulations on getting 70 reputation points from Navy Colonel Smoker. Congratulations on getting 40 reputation points from Navy Sergeant Dashiki. Congratulations on getting 1 reputation point from Passerby A. However, when seeing the system prompts, Kuruda also understood that the reputation points he got from a character each time were related to the character's strength, status, and emotional level. All the characters mentioned in the original work and the characters that appeared basically had a reputation value of more than 10. If it was Passerby A or Passerby B, it would basically be only 1 or even 0.5. However, during the few days of Kuruda's journey to Shields Town on the Bull, as the previous events continued to ferment, Kuruda could hear such prompt sounds many times, but he got annoyed after listening for a long time, and finally asked the system to turn off the prompt sound. However, he believed that with this speed, 10,000 reputation points would be reached soon, and even exceeded by a lot. And in these few days, whether it was a merchant ship, a pirate group or a navy warship, using his analytical ability, he saw that if he saw that it was good, of course he would not hurt anyone, but just robbed a little wealth and resources. But if there were signs of sin in the data analyzed by the system, then sorry, Kuruda and his Cobra King would not mind preying on you, whether you were other cobras or mice. All went to hell and reported to the King of Hell. Oh, wait, there seems to be no such thing as the King of Hell in the pirate world. However, due to their behavior in the past few days, their bad reputation was also spread. Yes, it is a bad reputation. Now many people in the East China Sea are afraid of them. After all, who would rob any ship they see? Even many pirate groups would not do that. After all, you can try to rob a pirate group or navy that is stronger than you. So the actions of Kuruda and his team in the past few days have indeed overturned the cognition of many people in the East China Sea, and many people are even afraid of them. Especially when it was reported that Kuruda and his team could accurately tell the intelligence of anyone, and they would not kill the good people but the bad people, which made many of the latter very scared. Although the 2 sisters and Alan were also surprised that Kuruda could accurately tell the situation of anyone, they did not ask more questions, because they knew very well that since Kuruda did not say it, they did not need to ask more questions. And they also knew that Kuruda was responsible for intelligence in the past and now, so Alan and the 2 sisters could also agree and understand Kuruda's behavior in the past few days. Because just like Kuruda himself said, only those who do not harm or affect good people and innocent people, who are the scoundrels and who only focus on beating and bullying the wicked can be called the real villains. So Kuruda still likes the so-called bad reputation now. He thinks that his idea of becoming a villain in the pirate world has achieved the first step. After all, there is no villain without a reputation, even if it is just the beginning now. Brother Ku, according to our current speed and our speculation, we should be able to reach Shields Town before noon tomorrow. On a sunny and clear day, Lucy came to Kuruda, who took out a recliner and lay on it to rest, and said, "Keep sailing, and pay attention to the surroundings. By the way, how are our supplies?" Kuruda also gave an order. Food, daily necessities, Bailey, and many other supplies are all very sufficient. Even if we don't need to plunder recently, they are enough for us to use for a long time. Lucy repeated the results recorded by herself and her sister. Then the original plan remains unchanged. As for supplies, apart from Bailey and money and wealth, there is no need to plunder other supplies for the time being. Kuruda also knew the principle of doing things in moderation, and immediately issued a new order. Yes, Kugo. Lucy went down directly after saying this. Seeing Lucy, who had already left, Kuruda began to communicate with the system in his mind. System, I summoned the strong from all worlds with reputation points. In what form did they appear? Did they suddenly appear in front of me, or something else? Kuruda had thought of such a question before, and now it is necessary to ask it clearly before arriving in Shieldstown tomorrow. It's all right. They can appear directly in front of you, or they can appear in any place in the pirate world designated by the host, but the host needs to rely on his own personality charm to completely subdue the other party. The system answered immediately. So, will the arrival of the strong from another world in the pirate world cause any energy fluctuations or something like that? Kuruda asked another question he had thought of a few days ago. Please rest assured, host. No, when they appear, the aliens will restrain their auras, and they will not generate any special energy fluctuations because they are controlled by the system. The system also gave an answer again immediately. Is that so? That's easy. Kuruda smiled slightly when he heard this. I don't know what he was thinking about and what he would do next. But soon it was night, after dinner in the restaurant. There is a lot of time to sleep during the day. I am full of energy now. I will take the night shift. You have been out robbing and training these days, and you are still busy with many things on the ship. Have a good sleep tonight, Kuruda said at the table after enjoying dinner. Okay, Brother Ku. Yes, Captain. No problem, Brother Ku. Although they were a little confused about such an order, Alan and the two sisters agreed immediately. In addition, they were indeed a little tired these days, so it would be nice to have a good sleep. And now Kuruda looked a little energetic. Since the captain said so, they could only do it. So soon after staying in the restaurant for a while, the two sisters and Alan went back to their bedrooms, leaving Kuruda alone on the deck. But in fact, this was intentional. After a while, he confirmed that Alan and the two sisters had fallen asleep. So, Kuruda opened the system panel directly in his mind, and then he was surprised to find that through the accumulation of these days, his current reputation value actually has a total of 35,260. System, now I spend 10,000 points to summon a powerful villain from the heavens and the world. Since there is money in hand, it is natural to spend it, and it is also to prepare for tomorrow. Oh no, if Luffy and the others haven't come yet, the time will be delayed for a while. But think about it, Luffy has set off from Windmill Village in the past few days, and it is time to go to Shieldstown. The main reason was that he had already said in front of Alan and the two sisters that he had known them for a long time, so in order to fulfill his promise, he naturally had to summon the summoned character now and then say a few words. The host has spent 10,000 points, the system will open the door to the other dimensional space, and the villains from other worlds are coming. Soon, in front of Kuruda or on the deck, a special energy space channel was suddenly opened, and not long after, brisk footsteps were heard from inside. Dalla Dalla, a man wearing a black hoodie on his head, wrapped in a black combat suit with gold patterns and a black cloak all over his body came out. His face was also very handsome, with that mysterious confident smile. The most important thing is that Kuruda, based on the previous keywords, the most important point is the swordsman, so in the left hand of this man, he is holding a completely black, sharp long sword with a blade as thin as 2 fingers. But after the man completely walked out, Kuruda's pupils suddenly dilated and his expression became serious, because he had recognized this person. At the same time, he had to admit that this person was definitely a top-level strongman, even in the underwater world, at least above the strength of a Navy admiral. But at the same time, he also understood that this person was not easy to subdue, not only because of his strength, but also because he was unruly, or had a bit of a middle school syndrome, wanting to be the strongest, above all things, and even wanting to be a nuclear bomb in the world. But this was challenging. Kuruda soon smiled, mainly because he knew this person well, and didn't think that with his current strength I can't beat him with all my strength. Is this the new world? It's full of the smell of the sea. The visitor looked around, especially when he found himself on a ship surrounded by the sea. He was surprised. But he quickly turned his attention to Kuruda in front of him. I heard a voice saying that I will be your crew member in this world, and you are my captain. The visitor said with a blank expression. I summoned you from the original world, so you can understand it this way. Shadow, or should I call you by your real name, Sid Kagano? Kuruda shouted the man's name directly. Just call me Sid. It seems that you are really not simple. Sid was also surprised when he heard the other party shouting his name, but he immediately smiled and said. But at the same time, he also understood very well that the person in front of him was definitely not simple. But Kuruda just smiled at Sid's words. Nonsense, he has lived 2 lives and is a time traveler. With the efforts of the past 6 months and some experiences in his previous life, how could he still be an ordinary person? To say that he is an ordinary person, he will pretend to be an ordinary person in front of strangers in the future, but in fact he is a big villain. But at the same time, Kuruda called out the name of the black swordsman in front of him. Sid Kagano. Maybe some people are still a little unfamiliar with this name, then Lord Shadow, if you want to become a powerful shadow person, such a comic should be familiar to you. I know some of your details. This should be that you have traveled to the 3rd world. In your first life, you were a high school student and also a Chunabu patient. You like to fantasize about some things. But in my opinion, your thoughts are too advanced, which makes it difficult for ordinary people to understand. As Kuruda finished speaking, Sid, although still smiling, had a drop of cold sweat on his forehead inside his hat. He never thought that the other party actually knew about his first life. However, when he heard about Chunabu and fantasizing, although he still smiled, he was a little angry in his heart. It was Kuruda's last sentence that made his smile no longer so fake. Sid thought, could the person in front of me be someone who truly understands me? To gain such powerful strength that he could move a car and even catch a nuclear bomb with his bare hands, Yingye has been working hard to train. But after learning that he could not catch a nuclear bomb no matter how hard he tried, he was hit by a car on his way to school and died. He was directly reincarnated into another world. After arriving in another world, Yingye got a new name, that is, Sid Kagano, and he has the memory of his previous life. Reincarnated into a fantasy world of swords and magic, and became a child of a baron. The powerful person of the shadow is the kind of person who looks like a passerby on the surface, so he has always been very low-key. After reincarnating into another world, he still maintained his middle school attributes and set out to become a powerful shadow man, such as hunting thieves and collecting money. He has been doing these things behind his parents' and sisters' backs since he was a child, and even formed an organization called Shadow Garden. Quote, the main action is to suppress the evil cult, but you actually just want to show off in front of the world. By the way, if I remember correctly, your clothes are actually black slime battle clothes. When Kuruda said this, he suddenly thought that the clothes that Sid was wearing now were not just ordinary battle clothes, but the material was actually black slime. It can shrink into a ball and hide on the body at ordinary times. Once used, it can be directly transformed into a battle suit and worn on the body, which can greatly enhance the wearer's attack power, defense, speed and strength. It is a very good special battle suit. This is one of my proudest masterpieces in the 2nd world, but it seems that you do know a lot, but I am very curious, how do you know this information? Hearing that the other party actually praised his slime battle suit, Sid was also very proud, but what he cared about more was how Kuruda knew so much information about him. Do you think you are the only one who traveled through time? Kuruda said meaningfully. Speaking of which, he and this person have the same relationship, both of them are travelers. Well, so you are also, no, even if you are such an identity, how do you know about me? And how did you summon me here? Hearing Kuruda say that he was also a traveler, Sid was naturally very surprised. This was a fellow villager meeting a fellow villager. He quickly thought that even with such an explanation, it could not explain how Kuruda knew his information, and he suddenly thought of how Kuruda summoned him here from another world. Do you know about comics and animation? You traveled from your first world to the 2nd world. Everything you did in the 2nd world is an animation story in my world. As far as I know, there is a projection in the universe. That is to say, everything you did in your world may become a story in another world. Kuruda directly told the truth, and also told him about the universe, and even some related knowledge he had communicated with the system some time ago. As for why I can summon you from another world, do you know the system? Kuruda quickly answered Sid's other question. They were both travelers, so he believed that Sid should also know the system. What? You actually have a system? But after hearing this, Sid could no longer maintain that smile, and said with surprise, even a hint of envy and jealousy. Why didn't he have a system after he crossed over? Obviously, a traverser with a system is a real winner in life. If he doesn't have a system, he will really have to start from a miserable worker. But at the same time, he now understands everything. If it is a system, it can really summon him from the original world to this world. It does have such power. Moreover, he has heard a little about the projection of the heavens and the worlds, but he didn't expect it to be true. However, if he can become a partner with such a fellow traveler, and before coming here, he has already understood this world, which is really very interesting, even more interesting than his original world. It is estimated that it will be fun to follow this person in the future. By the way, I want to maintain my current identity now, so whether it is you or me, today's things will be hidden. In short, it is about the traverser, and we can't say more. Kuruda said seriously quickly. Understood, I know the importance of this. Sid agreed to this matter, because he didn't want a third person in this world to know about the things in his first world. What was your situation before you came here? Kuruda asked curiously again. The evil cult has been overthrown, and now the Shadow Courtyard only occasionally solves some minor troubles. In other words, the world I live in is not as lively as it was a few years ago. Everyone in the world already knows me. When I go out to show off, others treat me indifferently. I feel bored and have actually started to enjoy my life. Sid said immediately, but it can't be heard from the sentence that he misses the past time very much. Kuruda was also very surprised after listening. He didn't expect that the plot over there seemed to have passed a long time compared to the anime he used to watch. In this way, the first point is that the characters who summoned people are not only alive and well in his original world, but there is nothing wrong with the other side. Wait, but suddenly, Kuruda thought that the one who was summoned was obviously the villain of the heavens, so why did Sid come here? Well, wait a minute, in the eyes of those evil cults, Shadow Courtyard is the biggest evil force, and Sid is the villain. Even in which world, Shadow Courtyard brings more fear to the world. From his current thoughts and future, Sid has actually become the villain in his mind in his original world. Then, according to the system settings, it seems reasonable to be summoned. After all, this guy is originally a swordsman and uses the sword very many times. However, if he remembers correctly, compared to the sword, it is specially used for big moves. In fact, this guy is best at fighting with a crowbar. But in terms of swordsmanship, it seems that he is really strong. Next, Kuruda also talked about some of his past, as well as after coming to the pirate world, and the current situation. After listening, Sid's eyes lit up immediately, because he found that the goal of the man in front of him was the same as his before, and even his ideas were not worse than his. And doing it again is more difficult than the original world, which is really interesting. However, he was very clear about one thing: ideals and reality are indispensable. Reality is strength. If you have ideals but no strength, you can't achieve them. If there is a recognition value now, Zide will recognize Kuruda half, unless the other party's strength can also be recognized by him. But he can also sense that the other party is indeed not simple, or in other words, the power of this world. But the specific situation still needs to be fought with his own hands. He has to confirm it with his own hands before he knows. So thinking of this, he quickly said, I have recognized you a little, but I want to talk about your strength, otherwise I will not be your partner. I would rather choose to wander in this world. Sure enough, we still have to fight. Hearing this, Kuruda also smiled bitterly in his heart, but it was only a little bit. But he did not deny that fighting is the best way to understand the other party. But now we can't fight here, and he has thought of this point a long time ago, and he has also had a solution a long time ago. If you want to fight, I'm always here to fight you, but not now. My crew members are already asleep, and they're sleeping soundly, so there's no need to think about fighting now, and... Kuruda then repeated what he had said to Alan and the two sisters before. So I hope you can cooperate with me tomorrow, and then we can fight directly. Kuruda said, and repeated his plan. Is that so? No problem, it's just a small matter, but according to your idea, should I get off the ship early tomorrow morning? Sid said after understanding the whole story. That's right, wait until I call your name and you come out, say the lines we agreed on before, and we can start fighting, but not in the town, go to the sea or the sky, I don't want to hurt innocent people. Kuruda nodded and emphasized a few points. No problem, looking forward to tomorrow's battle. Sid said here, drew out his long sword, pointed at Kuruda, his eyes full of fighting spirit. Seeing this scene, Kuruda was stunned at first, then smiled, and also pointed one end of the battle instrument at Sid, and said with the same fighting spirit. Me too, I will let you see my strength with your own eyes. Kuruda said immediately. As men, strong men, and both time travelers, Sid and Kurta don't need much to say. Although Sid only recognized half of Kurta now, tomorrow's battle, wait a minute, if according to the original plot, Luffy and Kobe go to the island and enter Shield's town tomorrow. Then it must be tomorrow, if not, it will be delayed for a few days. Kurta actually said this before. Sid said there was no problem, anyway, it was just a delay of a few days. It just so happened that he got information about the pirate world, which was just a vague memory, and he could take advantage of these few days to get familiar with it. However, after the battle agreement was made, Kurta asked Sid to keep his voice down a little, and the two quickly walked from the deck to the cabin. Cruiser pointed to his own, the two sisters, and Alan's room. In fact, white labels with names were posted on the doors. It was still easy to recognize, and this was also done to prevent new partners or some special circumstances from going to the wrong room. After Kuruda finished explaining the rules, Sid also chose a room, and then the two of them picked some daily necessities from the storage room, but they were just basic ones, because the supplies on the cabin now did not suit Sid's hobbies to decorate their own bedrooms. So they just took some toiletries and daily necessities, and some bedding in. The purpose was naturally to spend a simple night. However, Sid also said that Kuruda would give him some of the currency of this world, that is, Bailey in the pirate world, and he would buy what he liked to decorate his bedroom after entering the town of Shields in advance. So Kuruda was not stingy, and directly waved his hand and gave Sid a big bag of Bailey. After arranging Sid, Kuruda returned to the deck again to do the night guard work. However, after arriving on the deck, he jumped directly to the observation deck. He sat down on a chair that was originally placed here. System, I want to see Sid's character panel. After sitting down, Kuruda immediately said that he wanted to open the system panel again to understand the specific situation of this character. And the system quickly gave the relevant panel. Name, Sid Kagano. Age, 17 years old. Gender, male. Introduction. From the ordinary world to the other world to become a strong man, a generation of pretending king, a forward thinker. Abilities, physical skills, swordsmanship, good at using crowbars, magic. Current strength, Navy Admiral level. Weapon, shadow sword. Bounty amount, none. Bounty title, none. Is the actual age of this guy in the system the same as ours? Seeing the age column, Kuruda was stunned, and then asked with a shudder. In the anime that the host watched in his previous life, the other party was actually only 12 years old. The timeline of the system summoning was 5 years later, so naturally he was 17 years old. Don't forget, this is also a Dragon Ocean. The system gave a direct answer. So that's how it is. After hearing this explanation, Kuruda also accepted it. However, as a strong man from another world, even a top strong man. After coming to the pirate world, he is only a general-level combat force. From this point of view, the pirate world is indeed much stronger than such a comic world. However, if the opponent is only a general, plus he knows the opponent does not know him, but he only knows the opponent a little bit. After all, it has been 5 years since the original comic. Who knows how much growth he has made in these 5 years. But in short, he still has an advantage. In terms of weapons, the ultimate battle instrument is much more powerful than the shadow sword. The opponent still uses the magic power of that world, which is a world where magic and swords coexist. However, Sid is more of the latter, and can be regarded as a magic swordsman. But such ability is still not enough in front of chaos, so he is still very confident about the next battle. But at this moment, the system suddenly jumped out again. Host, in fact, the 10,000 World Summoning has another ability, that is, after you summon a character, whether you approve it or not, you can choose 2 out of 3 for the summoned partner, select abilities or items so that they can become stronger and better live and fight in the pirate world in the future. But after hearing this, Kuruda was silent for a while, and then immediately recognized the hideous and slightly collapsed smile. System, you'd better make sure this is the last ability of the 10,000 worlds summoning, the last intelligence, otherwise you will insert a new message every time at this critical moment. I can't stand it anymore. Quote. Good man, such important information is only told to me now. What kind of system is this? Why do you like to make a big breath and keep people in suspense? You say it's a surprise, but I think it's a shock. Don't worry, I've already said it, and such an ability will only be triggered after the character is summoned. The system explained a little embarrassedly. Okay, list your choices. But now Kuruda doesn't want to listen anymore, he just wants to help Sid choose the ability. At the same time, this is also the first time, he is naturally very curious about the specific operation, and what kind of items and abilities there will be. Advanced Domineering Haki. A top power in the pirate world, as long as you choose, you can directly obtain this powerful power. Quote. Double Shadow Crowbar. A pair of short crowbars made of the same material as the Shadow Sword, a very good weapon. Quote. Shadow Ball. A dark energy ball in the Pokemon world, you can draw out a dark energy ball at will, and after throwing it out, it can automatically track the target and attack. Quote. The system quickly brought out 3 options. Looking at the 3 options that appeared in his mind, Kuruda thought carefully. First of all, he felt that high-level Conqueror Haki was a must. This is the world of pirates. As a strong man, especially a top-level strong man, this is basically a necessity. And once the Conqueror Haki is released, some of the lesser minions will be cleared directly. It is not only the best ability to clear the line of soldiers, but also the best choice for showing off. Not to mention Kuruda. He thought that even Sid would probably like this ability very much, because this guy likes to show off the most. Then there are the second and third options. To be honest, he thinks the third option is just for fun. Sid is a very powerful magic swordsman, does he need such a small skill in the elf world? The energy blade slashed out with a sword is probably stronger than the shadow ball. On the contrary, Sid is very good at using crowbars to fight, which is brilliantly shown in the play. Before crossing, he easily solved a retired soldier, and used 2 crowbars in the last episode of the first season to easily face 2 powerful female magic swordsmen. Moreover, as Sid himself said, the crowbar itself has many uses. It can not only be used as a whirling stick, but also is very strong and durable, and easy to carry. So, system, let's go with the first and second ones. Kuruda made a direct decision. Okay, host. As Kuruda had made his choice, the system began to work. After taking one last look, Kuruda directly admired the night seascape, which was so peaceful and beautiful. But after saying this, he also casually dealt with the Sea King that suddenly jumped out of the sea with a stick. This is also one of the reasons why someone must be on duty at night, not only to prevent someone from sneaking onto the ship at night or appearing in their field of vision. At this time, in Sid's own simple room, he had already taken off his slime suit, wearing plain clothes and lying on the bed. Thinking about the future, I don't know if I can go back to the other world. Although I feel a little sorry for Alpha and the others, there is no danger there. They probably can live well without me, and I actually want to disband the Shadow Courtyard over there. Alas, I hope they can spend their lives there like normal girls. However, it would be best if I can go back, or if they can come, I'll ask Kuruda later. Quote. However, according to Kuruda, I was a top-level warrior in my original world, but here I seem to be a 3rd and 4th level warrior. It seems that this difficulty is more difficult than I imagined, but this is challenging, so that I can continue to show off. Haha, yes, this is it. After he laughed, the system directly sent him the reward. Sid now has a lot of insights and knowledge about high-level domineering color in his mind, and there is also a high-level domineering color energy in his body. At the same time, next to him, with a flash of light, a pair of short crowbars appeared. Domineering color domineering. Kuruda also said before, this is the most powerful and special power in this world. I thought I had to practice hard like before, but I didn't expect it to be so easy to get, and there are crowbars, which are made of the same material as my shadow sword. It is worthy of being the owner of the system. It is really powerful. I envy it continuously. After understanding the reward, I looked at the material of the crowbars again, which was actually the same as my shadow sword. Same, both are time travelers. Sid, who had no system at that time, naturally envied Kuruda, who had a system now. But no matter what, now he can get a piece of meat. For these two rewards, Sid is very satisfied and likes it. Then he fell asleep slowly after feeling sleepy again. Looking at the smile on the corner of his mouth, he seemed to be dreaming. However, Kuruda was not done yet. You know, this time he spent 10,000 reputation points to summon the villain from another world. There are still 25,260 reputation points left. It's better to buy something in the system mall now. It's also to enrich myself. But to be honest, although he still has such a large amount of reputation points, Kuruda is still a little confused about what he wants to buy. Because for now, they don't seem to lack anything. So now he can only look at the sea scenery at night while opening the system mall and looking at the items in the list. But Kuruda frowned more and more, because he didn't really want it, but the reputation points exceeded 50,000 points, and he couldn't afford it now. At present, it's not important to him at all, and he doesn't need it. Finally, Kuruda was forced to say, "System, do you have any good suggestions? And it must be bought with the reputation points I have now." Now there is really no way. Kuruda can only hope that the system can give some good advice. I do have some opinions, host. Since you already have the ultimate battle instrument, a top weapon from the Ultraman world. But in addition to being a weapon for close combat, it can also release powerful long-range skills. More importantly, it is a summoning weapon. It is a weapon that can control monsters, condensed from the power of Rebrando, so the system suggests that you may buy some monsters. The system quickly gave its own opinions. After listening, Kuruda's eyes suddenly lit up, and then he sat up excitedly and said, "Yes, why didn't I think of this before? There is an ultimate battle instrument, so it is really unreasonable to have no monsters as subordinates." Well, wait a minute, system, the monsters from the Ultraman world are also powerful beings from other worlds, right? I bought it with reputation points, which is equivalent to summoning a monster. Isn't this similar to the 10,000 worlds summoning, and the monsters I summoned will not be counted among the 10,000 worlds summoning powerful ones, right? But Kuruda suddenly thought of such a question, so he asked immediately. Host, you think too much. These monsters are all purchased by you in the system mall. These are just commodities and have nothing to do with the ability to summon all worlds. Buying monsters here is equivalent to buying pets in your previous life in a pet store. There is indeed an exclusive monster column in the system mall, and it is not just the Ultra world, but also some monsters from other worlds. However, for monsters from the Ultra world, the host can only buy one of each monster. The system quickly gave its own answer, but the most important thing is the last sentence. Only one Ultra world monster Kuruda can be bought, which is equivalent to a limited edition, and can only be bought once. One is enough. But Kuruda didn't think there was anything wrong with this, because he didn't want to buy two of the same monster. There are so many types of monsters in the Ultra world, and there is also Belia's performance in the monster cemetery. If he only buys one type of monster, he can also form a monster army. Only uniqueness can bloom the charm of monsters in the pirate world. When the system opens the monster column, just release the monsters from the Ultraman world, and they must be the ones I can afford now. Kuruda said again immediately. Obviously, he had already planned to buy monsters now. I am helping the host to select, and I have selected the monsters within the range that the host can buy. Space Monster Bermula, 3,000 reputation points, 0/1. Two-tailed Monster, 2,800 reputation points, 0/1. Underground Monster Teleston, 3,100 reputation points, 0/1. Rock Monster Sadra, 2,900 reputation points, 0/1. Soon, one panel after another appeared in front of Kuruda. These were the monsters that he could buy with his current reputation points, and there were many more. But after looking for a long time, there was nothing on Kuruda's tires, because these were all ordinary monsters. Let's talk about it later. He now wants a stronger or more famous monster. But soon, Kuruda did see some monsters that he really wanted, and they were also very famous and powerful. Ancient Monster Gamora, 6,000 reputation value per 1/0/1. Space Monster Air King, 5,700 reputation value per 1/0/1. Ancient Monster Bird Latora, 4,900 reputation per 1/0/1. Seeing these three monsters, anyone who has seen Ultraman will feel a little familiar. This pair of combination, to be precise, these three monsters are the three main monsters of the human Leonites Raymond in the big monster battle. Gamora, known as the Monster Prince, is good at land combat. Air King, known as the King of the Water, is good at water combat. Sensitive Combat the machine-like Latora is good at aerial combat. These three monsters are not only famous, but also powerful. Especially the first two. I don't know how many generations of derivative individuals there are in the history of Ultraman. Even Latora has a high reputation after the big monster fight. And the reason for choosing these three is also the current situation of Kuruda. Latora and King Air can be released directly, flying high in the sky and diving into the sea respectively. The former can overlook the sea surface at high altitude and provide support or send him some intelligence at any time. King Air can often ambush in the sea and drive away some sea kings close to the bowl. As for Gamora, he can only stay in the battle instrument for a long time, and summon it if there is a land battle. Soon after thinking about it, Kuruda clicked to buy it directly, spending 16,600 reputation points directly, and now there are 8,660 reputation points left. Looking at the remaining reputation points, Kuruda scratched his head and found that there were actually enough monsters now, and he had no plans to buy any more for the time being. So he immediately planned to buy some more. But at the same time, Kuruda picked up one end of the battle instrument and looked over. Soon, on the three blue crystals, the projections of Gamora, King Air and Latora appeared, and he could even hear the roars of the monsters. Then Kuruda thought of his previous idea, took one end of the ultimate battle instrument and pushed it forward gently. Two red lights flashed out, one flew directly into the clouds and turned into Latora, who was nearly 5 meters tall. And King Air, who was nearly 53 meters tall, dived into the sea. You are on guard in the sky and the sea respectively. If there is any situation, tell me in your heart, but also tell the good bull. Kuruda quickly gave orders immediately. Hearing the two monster voices in his mind, it was obvious that the monsters had known his orders and would strictly execute them. After getting a satisfactory result, Kuruda continued to look at the system mall, wanting to buy something useful. But he hadn't thought of it before, and he had paid a lot of attention to the monsters, so now he naturally had no good ideas, so he could only ask the system again, does he have any other ideas? Host, I have two recommended items, maybe you will be interested, which can greatly enhance your combat ability, mobility, and even make up for some other defects. The system quickly responded again. Oh, what is it? Kuruda asked happily. Ghost Core Ninja Core Token, a strange thing from the world of Jackie Chan adventures. As long as you have this token, you can summon and command the Ninja Core in the Ghost Core. 3,300 reputation points are required. Teleportation Skill, a skill provided by the system, which will condense into an energy bead. As long as you hold it in your palm and comprehend it, you can immediately learn the teleportation skill, and you can appear at will anywhere you can see. 3,500 reputation points. The system quickly listed the items and said. Looking at these two things, Kuruda's eyes flashed again. Good stuff, you know, the ninja group in the Ghost Army, although it is the weakest among the 9 war groups, but it is the most comprehensive in combat, and it knows a lot of things, and it is the ghost soldier with the best mobility and reconnaissance ability. Teleport, a life-saving skill, and if used well, it can also launch unexpected attacks on the enemy. Our mobility and combat capabilities will be greatly enhanced in the future, and we will learn it quickly. Haha, good, this reputation value is worth spending, I bought the system. Kuruda finally laughed. To help the host subtract the reputation value, the item is appearing. After the system's voice finished speaking, 2 rays of light appeared in front of Kuruda, and soon, a black token with a golden word, Ren, on it appeared. Obviously, this token can summon and represent the ninja group in the Ghost Army. The other is a silver bead. After taking the 2 items, Kuruda first put the ghost token aside, then picked up the silver bead with both hands and began to feel the power in it. Not long after, Kuruda, who had closed his eyes, suddenly opened his eyes again, but a silver light flashed in his eyes, and the energy of space actually overflowed in his body. Soon, with a flash of silver light, Kuruda disappeared, but in less than a second, the silver light flashed again on the bow, and Kuruda actually stood here directly. Obviously, this scene has already happened very clearly. Kuruda has completely mastered the ability of teleportation, or the skill. Haha, it's so easy, and the effect is also very good. I am very satisfied. Sid is better next, but let's fool Alan and the two sisters a little bit and say it is a special physical skill. Kuruda smiled, and even thought of asking his companions to learn this skill after the explanation. At the same time, he would explain it to the world as physical skill in the future. Anyway, there are many physical skills in the pirate world, which are already incredible. What's the big deal about one more teleportation? Soon, Kurta teleported back to the observation deck this time. Put the teleportation energy ball first, then pick up the ninja group token, and follow Kurta's thought. From the shadow of the observation deck, a blood-red eye suddenly opened. Then a figure suddenly rose from the shadow. This person is about 1.75 meters tall and wears a special Japanese kimono, which can also be said to be a ninja costume. But whether before or now, the blood eyes that can be seen clearly, or the gray-blue skin, are not enough to prove that this is not a human at all, but a ghost, a special shadow creature. Now appearing in front of Kuruda are the members of the ninja group in the Ghost Army, or Ghost Ninja Soldiers. Members of the ninja group usually wear black ninja suits. These suits are designed with dark red collars and waist parts, as well as dark red belts to store their special abilities. Looking at the ghost soldier in front of him, Kuruda quickly looked at some of the most basic panels. Name: Ghost Ninja Soldier. Age: none. Gender: none. Introduction: from the world of Jackie Chan Adventures, a special shadow creature with good combat ability and other special aspects. Ability type: Ninja, good at fighting and reconnaissance. General strength: school level. Weapons: shuriken darts, samurai swords, sticks, etc. It's just a little weaker than the current Tashigi, right? That's not bad, it's no problem to deal with ordinary Navy soldiers. Not to mention the immortal attribute and the ability to enter the shadow. Not bad. Kuruda nodded with satisfaction. Wait a minute, it seems that I haven't seen the panel of the three monsters yet. Kuruda suddenly thought of it and said, so he asked the system to call up the panel of the three monsters again. Name: Gamora. Age: over 5,000 years old. Gender: male. Introduction: a monster from the Ultraman world that survived the Earth dinosaur era, with strong combat capabilities. Abilities: close combat, super vibration wave. Strength: Lieutenant General, weakened. Other forms: none, temporary. Name: King Air. Age: over 5,000 years old. Gender: male. Introduction: from the Ultraman world, a monster cultivated by the Pit Star people, with strong combat capabilities. Abilities: close combat, electric shock ability. Strength: Lieutenant General, weakened. Other forms: none, temporary. Name: Latora. Age: over 3,000 years old. Gender: female. Introduction: from the Ultraman world, an ancient small bird monster living on the Earth, good at aerial combat. Ability: Fireball, Flame Shock. Strength: Lieutenant General, weakened. Other forms: Firebird form. After reading the panels of the three monsters, Kuruda did not ask questions to the system this time, because he already knew. There is no problem with the age difference. After all, many monsters, although they basically do not live for 1 or 2 episodes in Ultraman, most of the monsters are basically more than 1,000 years old when they appear in the play. If it is natural growth, there are many ways to make monsters grow quickly. As for the word, weakened, written in the strength column, Kuruda also thinks it is very reasonable, because to put it bluntly, most of the ordinary monsters in the Ultraman world can easily sweep the entire pirate world with just 1 or 2. So let's not talk about the system as simply impossible to give him a monster in its prime state, so that he can take such a big advantage, and even Kuruda himself doesn't want to, because if he has such a monster, all future adventures will be much less dangerous and challenging. That would be not fun, interesting. And even if these most common monsters, if they are in their prime, how could they have such a low reputation value? As for the form, there are many special forms or fusion forms of monsters in Ultraman. For example, Gamora, I don't know how many generations of derivative individuals have been born, such as Mechanical Gamora, Runaway Gamora, Gamora. These are just the ones that have appeared in the drama, and I don't know how many have been born in the game. Even when I was looking at the monster column in the system mall before, there were actually some monster forms provided by the system itself, but Kuruda couldn't afford it now. After all, his reputation points were almost used up. And for now, the 3 monsters are enough, but if the monster wants to have a new form, Kuruda must buy it in the system. As for Latora, that is a special case. Otherwise, if it was the most ordinary Latora, it would not have the strength of a vice admiral at all. At least now, Kuruda is very satisfied with the 3 monsters. After all, the strength is already very good, and the monsters are huge. With its size and physical strength, it can fight for a long time even against a powerful warrior of the battle level. Even the smaller Latora is the same. It fights at high altitude and has strong mobility. If it encounters a general level warrior, Latora is even more difficult than Gamora and King Air. The results tonight are very satisfactory. Now, the remaining reputation value is less than 2,000. Kuruda plans to save it for the time being. After dealing with all these things, he also put the teleportation energy beads and ninja tokens in the drawer of his room. Kuruda continued to watch everything on the sea from the observation deck, but soon he fell asleep because he was sleepy. At this time, in another direction, on the sea heading to the town of Shields, the pink-haired boy with friendship, wearing glasses, and a black-haired boy wearing a straw hat. They were riding a small wooden boat, but because it was late at night, the 2 were naturally sleeping. But if they continue at their current speed, they will probably arrive in the town of Shields tomorrow morning. In other words, there is no need to wait for a few days. Kuruda and his men will be able to go to the town tomorrow to perform a play that Kuruda has been planning for a long time. However, at the same time, there are 2 top-level naval warships in the sea not far away, heading here. Obviously, these are the 2 top-level naval warships that were sent by Zongguo a few days ago to try to hunt down or test Kuruda and his men. There are about 300 elite naval soldiers and 2 senior lieutenant generals, Huo Shaoshan and Gui Zhu. However, since it is already late at night, basically everyone is resting, except for some naval soldiers who are at work or driving warships. Even the 2 lieutenant generals Huo Shaoshan and Gui Zhu are the same. They need to fully rest and conserve their energy for tomorrow's battle. So they are all sleeping, but once danger comes, they can still wake up at any time and rush out of the cabin to fight with their observation hockey realm. Time soon came to the next day. The light from the rising sun on the sea woke up Kuruda, who was sleeping on the observation deck. After taking another look, he took out the telescope and looked forward. Then he smiled. At this speed, it is estimated that they can reach Shields Town smoothly before 8 o'clock this morning. However, he also looked at the nearby sea area and did not find Luffy and the others. After a little silence, he took back the telescope. Maybe he landed on the island from the other side. After all, when Luffy met Kobe, he had experienced a whirlpool on the merchant ship, and he had long lost track of his exact location, and was even far away from the windmill village. It's just sunset now, so let's wait a little longer. After all, according to the original book, it was already daytime when Luffy and his friends landed on the island. But after thinking about it, he thought it would be best to observe that side as well, so he immediately enriched Latora, and described the detailed appearance of Luffy and Kobe and the model of the ship in a little detail, so that Latora could report to him immediately after seeing it. But suddenly, Kuruda sensed it with his observation hockey, so he turned around and saw that it was Sid, who was wearing normal clothes, that is, not wearing a slime suit, and appeared in front of him. "You didn't sleep all night, did you?" Sid said in surprise. You know, when he founded the Shadow Courtyard, he often acted at night, so he often felt sleepy during the day, especially when he saw the sun. But why does Kuruda seem to be in the same state now, but he doesn't feel sleepy at all? I fell asleep late at night, and I was woken up when the sun rose. And I have the observation hockey, so everything around me can't escape my eyes. And you had the Shadow Courtyard at the beginning, and I have some power now, but you can't see it now. Kuruda smiled and explained. Whether it was the observation hockey, with his current top realm, he could fully perceive everything happening around him, and at the same time, he simply exposed the existence of the ghost core and monsters. Hearing the previous sentence, Sid felt that he suddenly realized that it was another kind of magical domineering. The power of this world is really interesting. But when he heard that there were other powers and other existences on the ship, he was shocked. He hadn't even realized that Kuruda was more terrifying and powerful than he had imagined. Fortunately, they were now in the same group, and they would know in the future. However, he was still a little envious of Kuruda, a traverser with a system. Don't talk about me first, why did you get up so early? Kuruda said with a smile. Didn't you tell me to go early today? While your 3 companions haven't woken up yet, and now we are not far from the small town island you mentioned. Sid also said with a smile. Well, I guess we can see the island in the morning. Kuruda nodded and said. Then I will set off first. I will always pay attention to you going to the island. When you send a signal, I will come out and fight you. Sid repeated the plan again, and then said with full of fighting spirit. I look forward to it too. Kuruda also said with a smile and full of fighting spirit. Soon, Sid also laughed once, and in an instant, he changed into the slime suit again. Since he already knew the direction, he quickly flew towards the town of Shields. Not long after Sid left, Alan actually set an alarm clock and got up on time at almost 6 o'clock. After washing and tidying up his appearance, he picked up the ocean hammer and went straight into the kitchen. It was really close, just a little while. If Sid just came out, he would run into Alan who just came out of the door. Otherwise, it would be difficult to explain at that time, and there might even be a conflict. Soon, as a chef, Alan began to help the crew prepare breakfast. The weather on the sea is also very good today. At least now Kuruda, who is standing on the bow, looks at the boundless sea, the magnificent sea water is rippling, the sun has risen a little, and now the blue sky and white clouds are showing in the sky. A slight sea breeze blows, and there are some birds flying by and making calls, and from time to time there will be some fish or sea kings appearing on the sea surface, and finally jumping into the sea. Kuruda is now enjoying the beauty brought by nature. But at the same time, don't underestimate the dangers under this beautiful sea. After watching for a while, Kuruda suddenly smelled some fragrance coming from the kitchen. He knew that Alan was already making breakfast. At the same time, he had to say in his heart that this kid got up really early. But he had been on the lookout all night. Let alone that, he was already feeling hungry now. Moreover, he had been blown by the cold wind last night. Even if he had been exposed to the sun, he was still shivering with cold. Because he actually forgot to close the glass door before going to bed last night. But now that he smelled the fragrance, Kuruda also looked at it a few more times, then walked down the bow, walked across the deck, and walked into the cabin. Came to the restaurant. The restaurant and the kitchen were connected, so naturally he could see Alan in the kitchen from the restaurant, cooking a rich breakfast, and it was full of warmth everywhere. Brother Ku, you are here. You worked hard last night. Alan felt someone coming in from outside, turned around and saw that it was Kuruda and immediately greeted him. It's okay. We have to do something, and it's just a trivial matter. When is breakfast ready? Kuruda said with a smile. Alan, wait a little while. Have Lucy and Luke gotten up? It should be soon. Although we live on the pirate ship now, our schedule is basically the same as on the island, so it should be soon. Kuruda said. During the conversation between the two voices were heard outside, which really fulfilled the saying that if you mention the devil, he will appear. Brother Ku, Brother Alan, we are here. Didn't expect us to come so soon. Lucy and Luke said one after another after they came in, but relatively speaking, Lucy is gentler and Luke is more naughty. After all, the two sisters have different personalities. Wait a little longer, breakfast will be ready soon. Seeing that everyone was there, Alan also sped up the speed of making breakfast, and continued to work after saying that. Taking advantage of this time, the two sisters and Kuruda also cleaned up the table a little, and brought out some plates, chopsticks, spoons and the like. Soon, Alan also brought up breakfast after breakfast, including sandwiches, some fried eggs and bacon, hot milk and hot soy milk, as well as some sushi, snacks and the like. All of them were placed on the table, and the entire table suddenly became full of dazzling things, and it was overwhelming, because it was too rich and too much, combined with the white steam and fragrance. The two sisters and Kuruda couldn't help but drool, and their stomachs couldn't help but growl. Seeing them like this, Alan also smiled. As a chef, and also a partner, there is naturally nothing more joyful than a partner being hungry, seeing the food he made full of desire, and waiting to eat it next. So soon after Alan said that it was time to eat, everyone gathered around the table and enjoyed a hearty breakfast. Kuruda and Alan basically devoured their food, but the two sisters were more elegant. Different people have different ways of eating, and they also like these ways of eating, whether bold or elegant, but as long as they like it, it's fine. After all, eating is also a kind of enjoyment, and Alan's cooking skills are also amazing. Soon, everyone was full and lay down on the chairs for a while to rest. Now, with the improvement of their strength, although their appetite has increased, their speed of eating is naturally faster, although they are still not as fast as Luffy, the rubber man. You wait here first, I'll go get something. Kuruda stood up and said after a while, then walked out of the restaurant and went to the bedroom to get the ghost token and teleportation energy beads, but the token was naturally hidden on his body, because just like the system, there was no need to expose this token. However, as a traverser, in order to gain trust, he had naturally told Sid that he had a system. After all, they were all traversers from Blue Star, and Kuruda also knew that Sid was just envious of the system. Based on his understanding of the other party, Sid actually liked himself more and the power he got through hard work. However, even so, the ghost army can be displayed in front of everyone, but the token cannot. After returning to the restaurant, he sat down again, and Kuruda put the energy bead directly on the table. Wow, what a beautiful bead. Luke saw the beautiful big bead and said in surprise and joy, fully showing a little girl's love for jewelry. After all, most girls like jewelry. But Alan and Lucy are different. After all, they are more mature and wise. Although they also show a surprised look, they can feel how much energy is contained in the bead in front of them. So this must not be an ordinary bead at all, and they know that this world has some rare treasures, and they have seen everything recently, such as the hidden bead under the deserted island. Now, it seems reasonable for Kuruda to take out such an unusual bead, but what is the origin of this bead and what ability does it have? Lucy was the first to ask Kuruda, "Brother Ku, what is this?" "Yesterday I killed a sea king that crashed into the bowl with a stick, but after it was smashed into flesh and blood, I suddenly found a glowing object. I immediately took it and found this bead, but the magic came. I took this bead, held it with both hands, and then I felt it, and I was passive. When I opened my eyes again, I actually had the ability to teleport, which is the so-called space transfer." "Do you know?" Kuruda was surprised and said with a smile. "What? There is such a magical bead." Alan couldn't sit still anymore and stood up and said directly. "So you guys try it now, just like I said just now, see if you can get it. If you can also get the ability to adapt, it will greatly enhance our combat capability and mobility, and this bead will also be regarded as our treasure, temporarily hidden, and in the future, as long as the partners who can be completely trusted by us, will have the ability to teleport." Kuruda said. "If it is really like what you said, then this bead is simply a priceless treasure, you know, it is teleportation." Lucy was full of shock, and then smiled. It seemed to be congratulating Kuruda and their pirate group for obtaining such a treasure. "But we still have to try it, who will go first?" Kuruda continued. Let me go first." Luke shouted in surprise, and then took the bead with both hands, and then closed his eyes. Before Lucy scolded, it was too rude, Alan and her were surprised to find that Luke was actually in deep enlightenment. Is this true? Soon, when Luke opened her eyes again, it was already 2 minutes later. Lucy hurried forward to ask how she was. Did she feel unwell? But Luke immediately smiled at her mischievously, and then with a familiar silver light flashing, she disappeared, and when she appeared again, she was already next to the gate. "Haha, I actually have the ability to teleport, so great." Luke said it immediately, full of joy. Seeing this scene, Lucy and Alan naturally felt incredible. They didn't expect this to be true, but after quickly deciding the order, the two of them also happily grasped the energy beads one after another. After a period of perception, they woke up and tried again. The two also have the ability to teleport. As they said before, their combat ability and mobility have been improved again. After all, this is teleportation. Seeing that the three partners have the ability to teleport, Kuruda is also very happy and smiled. As for Sid, let's talk about it after this operation is over. Because let's not talk about it first. If Sid also mastered the ability of teleportation in this battle, even he would feel a little tricky. After all, that guy was very fast. He even felt that Sid's speed was not inferior to Kizaru. And aren't the people here now? So what's the use? After the joy, the few people suddenly became quiet. After a discussion, the energy beads will naturally continue to be kept by Kuruda. Then, under the witness of everyone, Kuruda hid himself and locked it with a special seastone box and lock. Then, except for Alan who started washing dishes, the two sisters and Kuruda returned to the deck. After sailing for a while, with the final confirmation of the two sisters, they could finally see the town of Shields with their naked eyes. Alan also came to the deck during this period and saw the destination that had been reached, including Kuruda himself. Everyone cheered immediately. They finally arrived at the destination. If everything goes well, this is the first place they invite new partners to join them on board. And it was at this time. In Kuruda's mind, Latora, who was still flying in the sky, immediately sent information. Master, I found the person you asked me to keep an eye on in the sea area on the other side of Shields Town. Kuruda was stunned. Has Luffy and Kobe been found? So in order to confirm it for himself, he immediately used the power of the ultimate battle instrument to see everything that Latora could see. Sure enough, through Latora's eyes, there is indeed a small wooden boat heading towards Shields Town, and it is on the other side. And aren't the people on it Luffy and Kobe? From this point of view, we just caught up. If what is said in the original book is correct, then Zoro is also here now. Latora, let me see the situation in Shields Town. Kuruda gave an order again in his heart. He wanted to confirm whether Zoro was there. After all, this is also an important audience for his good show later. Yes, Master. After receiving the news, Latora on the other side responded first, and then immediately shifted his gaze from the sea to the town. Not long after, he found a young man with green hair and black skin tied to a wooden frame. This person is undoubtedly the current pirate hunter Zoro, the future vice captain of the Straw Hat Pirates, and Zoro, who has the dream of a childhood friend and aims to be the world's greatest swordsman. But it's really stupid. Not to mention that Zoro is a famous super difficult person in the pirate world. He actually believed that a villain like Barumber who often bullies civilians would really let him stay here for a month without food or water, and let him go as long as he persists. He couldn't even see such an obvious joke, so Zoro is really a little stupid, or too persistent and rigid. But perhaps it is precisely because of this persistence that Zoro is a completely different person from his strength 2 years later. Even Kaido, the strongest creature, can easily cause damage with his powerful self-defense, even the blue dragon scales. And Zoro's character is also beyond reproach. He was beaten by a bear for his partner and was covered with bruises and looked like a human. So when watching the One Piece anime in his previous life, Kuruda still liked Zoro as a character. And Luffy and Kobe, it would be better to see them again this time, or meet them in person. But now they are all here, which proves that they have arrived at the plot of the original work, which is also a blessing in disguise. Soon, Kuruda found an excuse to slow down the speed of the bull, even slower than before, which is equivalent to the ship drifting on the sea, and let the bull drift towards the town of Shields. The two sisters and Alan naturally didn't say much. After all, the captain has the final say on the pirate ship. But in fact, Kuruda just wanted Luffy and Kobe to enter the town first and meet Zoro first. After all, there is no saying that actors go on stage to perform before the audience is seated. So, Kuruda asked the two sisters and Alan to do their own things first, and they can take a rest after they are done. At the same time, he also observed all the movements around him through Latora's eyes. Especially when Luffy and Kobe had stopped the ship and entered the town of Shields, he ordered Latora to continue monitoring, and also asked King Air to protect the bull underwater. After turning off the power engine of the bull, he threw the anchor down and let the ship stop on the sea. He didn't even plan to stop the bull at the dock of Shields to avoid alerting the enemy. After all, there is still a large naval branch in Shields. Once the bull sails over, it will definitely be discovered by the Navy. Although these garbage cannot threaten him, he has already added Monka and Barumber to the hunting list, but according to the original work, it is better to kill these two bugs in front of Luffy and the other two and those Navy soldiers. After all, These people, especially Luffy and the other three, see that these big villains have the ruthless means they should have, and the reputation value they provide must be very large. Kuruda always does this to maximize the benefits. Let's go, fly into the town, Kuruda said with a smile, and then after the two sisters and Alan nodded, all four of them flew up from the bowl, and then when they saw the dock, they used the teleportation ability and arrived at the dock in an instant. Fortunately, there seemed to be no one around, otherwise they would be scared. Under Kuruda's leadership, several people quickly arrived at the center of the town. After all, I had already familiarized myself with the detailed terrain and routes of Shield's town through Latora's eyes. But sometimes it is better to come early than to come at the right time. Maybe it took a little time to walk here, and now Luffy has already faced Monka, and has basically crushed them. As for those Navy soldiers, they are just some miscellaneous soldiers, and Zoro can easily deal with them. In theory, it is easy to deal with such a small Navy branch with the strength of two people, but Kobe, who is still a weakling, is pointed at his head with a gun by Belmer, who is also a weakling. The whole battle stopped suddenly, but the Straw Hat Pirates, even if they don't have the strength they will have 2 years later, Luffy, the captain, and Zoro, the deputy, are in this small East China Sea. With their strength, how can they care about this small threat? But now Kuruda decided to take action. Stop it all. As this sentence was shouted loudly, Kuruda also released the domineering aura directly, but it was not to shock people into coma, but just a simple shock, making them unable to move. Soon, everyone present was unable to move for a while. After they recovered quickly, everyone looked in the direction where Kuruda and the others came from. Kuruda also walked up with the two sisters Lucy and Luke and Alan. "You, who are you?" Although he felt that these young people in front of him were definitely not ordinary people, Monka had been a colonel here for so many years. Whether he treated civilians or his Navy subordinates, he was arrogant and domineering. So he didn't realize the seriousness of the matter for so long. What he was about to face was still arrogant as usual. "Hey, Zoro, it seems that a group of interesting people have come." Although Luffy was shocked by Kuruda's performance before, he still said to Zoro next to him with a joking expression. "He is very strong, but he doesn't seem to be a swordsman, so I have no interest in him." Through Kuruda's previous performance, Zoro was sure that the other party was definitely a strong man, but when he saw Kuruda holding a long stick in his hand, he immediately realized that this guy was not a swordsman at all, so he lost some interest. "Let me introduce myself briefly. My name is Kuruda, and I am the captain of the fallen pirates. I am a man who aims to be the ultimate villain." Kuruda looked at Monka, or an ant in front of him, and smiled. "I don't care what fallen pirates you are. I am the man who defeated Kuro. No matter what means you used before, you ignorant ant, prepare to suffer." But the last word of death has not been uttered yet. Chaos Death Light Scythe. Kuruda directly waved the ultimate battle instrument, and after condensing the chaos energy on it, he shot out a giant sickle-shaped destructive beam, which hit Belmer directly. "Ah, no." Balloonbeer could only scream in the smoke and explosion. When these completely dissipated, there was no one left. Obviously, Kuruda's move had completely blasted the opponent into ashes. This scared everyone, especially Kobe, who was so scared that he knelt on the ground. There was no way, there was a living person just over there, but he was gone in an instant. So powerful. Zoro clenched the knife in his hand and said while looking at Kuruda. He felt the power of the other party, which was definitely not comparable to him now, plus the captain next to him. "Wow, so powerful, but he is also a captain, otherwise I would pull him on board no matter what," Luffy said with a big smile beside him, which made Zoro speechless. How could he be interested in you when he was so powerful? But the most angry person at this time was Monka. After all, Barumber was his son, and his son was killed by the thief in front of him, and it was after he finished speaking. At this time, anger had completely overwhelmed his mind, and he picked up the axe and rushed forward. "Asshole, I want you to pay for my son's life." Monka jumped up with force, and the bright and heavy axe was directly driven by his arm strength, and he chopped it down with one axe. "Humph, just an ant." Kuruda used the ultimate battle instrument to wrap the armament hockey and hit it with a stick, not only smashing Monta's axe but also breaking his arms. With 2 snaps, this was the sound of Monta's arm being broken, followed by the sound of manta falling to the ground and the axe fragments falling to the ground. However, these were soon replaced by the loud screams caused by the severe pain in his arms, and Manta's screams resounded directly in the square. However, the bystanders who saw this scene were also frightened and stepped back several steps. Kobe was almost scared to pee his pants, and Luffy was no longer smiling, and he and Zoro next to him looked at this scene with a serious look. Well, how cruel. I don't know who said this. But this sentence undoubtedly won the approval of many people, including Luffy and Zoro, who nodded. But soon, Kuruta's next words directly changed their views. Monka, the actual ruler of the 153rd branch and Shields Town, a cruel and tyrannical man, who allowed his son Belber to do whatever he wanted in the town and even tried to build a giant statue for himself. Under your rule, both the Navy soldiers and the residents have lived a miserable life. People like you deserve to be tied to a cross and cut into pieces by the residents here. Kuruta also said everything he knew about Monka's crimes in Shields Town. After Kuruta finished speaking, many people were stunned for a while. The first to react were the two sisters and Alan. They believed in Kuruta's intelligence ability, so they looked at Colonel Monta with disgust. The three of them were basically civilians, so they hated the local officials who oppressed the civilians the most. If Kuruta had not issued an order now, they would not have been able to help but kill this guy. But anger had already risen in the hearts of the three. And some naval soldiers who were present after listening to the speech also lowered their heads in silence, because as subordinates, they also knew very well that everything Colonel Monka said over the years was exactly the same as what Kuruta said. Therefore, these naval officers had an idea in their hearts, that is, when will such a disaster end? In other words, they were already very dissatisfied with Monka and his son. Luffy, Zoro, and Kobe, who originally thought that Kurta was very cruel, felt justice and kindness in their hearts after hearing about Monka's deeds. They immediately felt that Kurta was right. Such people should go to hell for the crimes he committed. Ahem, a pirate, what qualifications do you have to convict me? You killed my son, so you deserve to die. Monka raised his head, bloodshot eyes, gritted his teeth, and roared at Kurta. But what greeted him was only the ultimate battle instrument that had been smashed down by Kurta. With a snap, Monka's head was smashed like a watermelon, and he went to hell to accompany his son. Putting away the ultimate battle instrument, looking at the corpse below indifferently, Kuruta showed an evil smile and said, "You were right, I am a pirate, and even more a bad guy, so I can do whatever I want, not to mention killing a small Navy colonel like you." Kuruta took another look at the Navy soldiers who were already scared silly, pale, and trembling, and said coldly, "I heard that this guy embezzled a lot of money from the civilians at this table. Tomorrow at this time, return all the embezzled money, otherwise I will completely eradicate the Navy branch here today." After saying that, Kuruta once again used the Conqueror's Haki to deter. Soon, a black-skinned Navy soldier trembled and said, "No, no problem, please let us go, Navy soldiers, go and return the money." However, although the Navy trembled when he spoke, it could not be seen that he and other Navy soldiers had a smile on their faces, and even tears of emotion flowed from the corners of their eyes. Liberated, finally liberated, Monka died, Belumber also died, and this town finally returned to peace. And they were willing to return the original property to the civilians. Soon, these Navy soldiers retreated. Seeing this scene, Kuruta smiled with satisfaction. He did what a real villain should do. From the perspective of civilians, he was a good person, but from the perspective of villains, such as Monka and his son this time, he was a big villain. Lucy and Luke, and Alan also smiled. Seeing their civilians return to a normal and beautiful life and the evildoers go to hell, they were also very happy. At the same time, they admired and yearned for Kuruta's charm and courage. "Oh, it seems that you are a good person. Can I be your friend?" Luffy came directly to Kuruta and said. But Zoro and Kobe next to him were shocked. Through the previous moves, they already understood that Kuruta was definitely not an ordinary strong man. In addition, they didn't know the other party's behavior and deeds at all. If they went up rashly, if they made the other party unhappy, they would suffer. "No problem, you are good people in the true sense, and I am willing to be friends with you." But Kuruta just smiled and said to Luffy, which immediately surprised Zoro and the others. "Is it so easy to talk? But let's not talk about karate first. Luffy, who originally planned to have no possibility of making enemies in the future, and although Luffy is a little stupid, he can get along with others. Just like Hawkeye said after the war on the top, Luffy has a special power that can turn enemies into friends. For example, in the original work, when the chapter of Wano Country ended, Luffy already had many friends in the New World, and these people could become Luffy's final force against the world government and IM. Moreover, as the protagonist of Destiny, the animal-type human fruit mythical beast sun god Nika form, the successor of Joy Boy, even after the end of the Wano Country chapter, in a sense, the three ancient weapons, Pluto and Sea King, have fallen into Luffy's hands. So now Kuruda feels it is necessary to befriend Luffy. Ah, ha 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 ha, really? Great, then we are friends from today, ha ha ha. Luffy was stunned at first, and then laughed. In this way, the initial friendship was established. Alan and the two sisters also smiled when they saw this, because they knew very well that Kuruda did like to make friends with people who were kind and just by nature, but it must be true justice, not false justice. But soon, both Luffy and Zoro were hungry, especially Zoro, who had not eaten for almost 7 days and had fainted on the ground due to hunger. There were also Kobe and Luffy, who had been drifting on the sea for several days and had not eaten good food. In that case, I'll treat you this time. Where is the best restaurant in this town? Kuruda, who had a lot of money in his hand, was not panicked at all, so he didn't mind treating Luffy, the big eater, for a meal. However, the last question was naturally asked to the girl who fed Zoro rice balls not long ago. It was precisely because of saving this girl that Zoro agreed to Barumber's request 7 days ago. After all, she was the only native here now. Kuruda didn't ask her. Who else could he ask? I know where it is. Brothers, wait for me. Thank you for saving our Shields town. Everyone can finally live a good life in the future. The little girl said happily. After that, he also led everyone to the best restaurant in Shields town. Okay, I must have a good meal later, haha. Hearing that someone invited him to dinner, and it was a new friend, Luffy, who was already hungry, laughed and said. Seeing him like this, everyone was speechless. This guy was really a little stupid, except Kuruda, because now Latora sent him another message. Master, I found 2 warships coming here. As Latora finished speaking, Kuruda once again borrowed Latora's eyes. In fact, when he heard about warships, he had already thought of the Navy, because no one except the Navy would own warships, even the Navy's boss, the world government, rarely used warships. However, when he saw that it was the top warship of the Navy coming here, and the Navy soldiers on it should also be top elites from the logo on their clothes, and Kuruda had already recognized the 2 Navy Vice Admirals, Ghost Spider and Fire Mountain, from the decks of the 2 Navy warships. This is too easy to recognize. Among all the ordinary Vice Admirals, these 2 Vice Admirals who participated in the O'Hara incident are still very famous. Not to mention the hawkish Vice Admirals in the Navy. However, seeing this, Kuruda basically guessed the ins and outs of the matter. It must be that the Navy headquarters was sent by Sengoku, but unexpectedly, only 2 Vice Admirals were sent. This is too much to underestimate them. However, Kuruda thought about it, maybe it was also related to their previous low profile. So the people sent by the Navy this time were a little despised, but no matter what, he had known that there would be such a situation. For the Navy, except for some relatively kind-hearted individuals or Navy branches mentioned in the original work, for others, especially those from the headquarters, he would only have one way, that is, to strike hard. For those real hypocrites and pseudo-righteous Navy, especially after the war on the top, the Navy did not even maintain the last bit of true justice, and was a dog of the celestial dragons and the world government that harmed and oppressed the world. However, although the Navy warships can destroy and kill those ordinary soldiers, Ghost Spider and Fire Mountain are still a little famous in the original work, and can also earn him some reputation points. These 2 guys should be kept for the time being. When he has too much reputation to spend, it won't be too late to kill these 2 guys. After thinking about this, Kuruda remembered how to face it. First of all, this battle cannot be held in Shields Town, and it cannot affect the bull. The innocent civilians here cannot be harmed. After all, this time it is the Vice Admiral who participated in the O'Hara incident, and he is also a hawkish Vice Admiral. It is inevitable that he will do some extreme things. Moreover, the bull does not have the ability to resist the attack of the Navy artillery 100% without damage. As mentioned before, they don't have a shipbuilder on their ship. In summary, this time it is better to fight the Navy on the sea directly, like suppressing pirates. He didn't want to take action this time. After all, he still had a battle with Sid next. Send out the Ghost Ninja Corps, plus Alan and the two sisters. It's enough, let them go. The first is to let Sid know that Alan and the two sisters are not ordinary people, not only important professionals on the ship, but also excellent comrades. At the same time, this naval battle can also brush up another wave of reputation points on Luffy and the other three. But it still needs to be explained in front of Alan, the two sisters, and Luffy and the other three. So after arriving at the restaurant, Kuruda asked Luffy and the others to order food first, and then took the opportunity to call Alan and the two sisters over while the three of them were together, and told them about the Navy warship coming, and wanted them to intercept it. Hearing that it was just two top-level Navy warships, some miscellaneous soldiers, and two vice admirals, the two sisters Alan and Lucy Luke said that it was no problem and it was a piece of cake. After all, the three of them were basically the strength of admirals in the Navy. The Navy headquarters only sent such a small number of strengthened people, and the three of them were enough. But when they heard Kuruda talk about the ghost spirit, the three of them were in a daze. What a ghost army. Seeing them like this, Kuruda explained and handed over the token. Remember the bead in the morning. This token was also taken out from the body of the Sea King. It should also be an ancient secret treasure. As long as you carry it with you, you can summon the Ghost Corps with your mind. When you encounter the Navy, just try it directly. At that time, the miscellaneous soldiers on the Navy warships can be taken care of by the Ghost Corps, and you just need to focus on dealing with the two vice admirals. At the same time, Kuruda also handed the token to Lucy, because if they went to war, the two sisters would definitely be able to spare some time, and Lucy was a little more mature and calm than Luke, so it was most appropriate to give the token to Lucy. Hearing that there is such a magical thing, the two sisters and Alan were still a little surprised, but it sounded like the Ghost Corps was not human. Forget it, anyway, let's see when the time comes. With many previous lessons, they are willing to believe Kuruda this time. Promise to complete the mission, Captain. After the three of them promised with serious faces, Alan and the two sisters left the restaurant. Kuruda watched them leave with a smile, and at the same time wished them a victory this time, even if this game was a sure win. Hey, Kuruda, why did your crew leave? You haven't introduced them yet. Luffy, who was watching Zoro and Kobe ordering food, saw this scene and asked curiously. Zoro and Kobe turned their heads and were also stunned. Why did they leave? Oh, I collected some good wine and brewed juice. I asked them to get it and they will be back soon. Kuruda turned around and made up an excuse to fool around and laughed. Oh, so that's the case. Hearing this, Luffy nodded and said. Tebi on the side didn't have any other emotions, but when Zoro heard the word good wine, a glimmer of light flashed in his eyes. He liked wine the most. At this time, Alan and the two sisters who had arrived at the dock relied on their unique flying ability to fly out to the sea and headed towards the bowl. But it is better to say that it is the Navy heading towards the bowl than the bowl. And now, on the sea not far from the town of Shields, two naval warships are traveling side by side and heading here. There is no doubt that these two are the two top naval warships where the elite naval soldiers sent by the Navy headquarters are located. Now standing on the bows of the two ships are naturally the two vice admirals Huo and Ghost Spider sent by the Navy this time. Ghost Spider, wearing a helmet engraved with a double-headed dragon pattern and a very ferocious expression. Holding two swords, his hair like 8 legs like a spider also holds swords, but in fact he can also use a pistol. He has a cruel personality and does not care even if he hurts his subordinates when performing tasks. He is a hawkish figure in the Navy. The other person was naturally Huo, who smiled, closed his eyes, held a cigar in his mouth, had a thick brown beard under his chin, and wore a navy coat on his shoulders like a cloak. In the Navy, there is no faction yet, but he is quite popular. At this time, Huo seemed to open his eyes, but soon closed them again, but he immediately smiled and said, Ghost Spider, if I am not mistaken, the front is our target this time. I saw their pirate ship. I didn't expect them to stop the pirate ship directly on the sea. Humph, finally met. I have been holding it back these days. Gunners, get ready. As long as I give the order, fire all the shells at the pirate ship. Ghost Spider said with a cold expression, and then ordered the soldiers on the ship. Soon, the Navy soldiers saluted and got busy. Hey, Ghost Spider, don't forget that the Marshal asked us to test it first. It's hard to say what the opponent's strength is, and even the headquarters hasn't figured out their fruit abilities. Huo Shaoshan continued to say with a smile. What are you afraid of? They are just some little ghosts. And they have domineering power. Why are you afraid of devil fruit users? As a righteous navy, we should catch pirates. If they resist stubbornly, even if we kill them directly, what will happen? How? Ghost Spider said with a disdainful and cold expression. After hearing this, Huo Shaoshan wanted to say something. But suddenly, his face changed. Not only him, but also Ghost Spider on another ship, all felt an unknown danger. Oh no, in fact, they could see with their naked eyes that in front of them, from behind the bowl, there were several huge boulders flying towards them in a parabola. The pirates actually dared to attack us first. Ghost Spider roared angrily, but immediately used the moon step to fly up. However, the moon step is just a special physical skill, which does not allow people to fly. It is just stepping on the air. Soon, Huo Shaoshan also rushed up with a serious face, using the moon step, and at the same time pulled out the samurai sword on his waist. In coordination with Ghost Spider's 8-sword style, the two vice admirals attacked at the same time. In the cheers and admiration of the Navy soldiers below, the two began to resolve the boulders thrown at them. The two attacked at the same time, and after wrapping the weapons with the armed color tyrant, they chopped the boulders into pieces. Originally, everything was fine, but when the two men chopped the last two boulders, suddenly, people were filled with shock and a little panic, because the boulder in front of them actually had an extra layer of armament hockey where they were chopped, and the two people's slashes were directly blocked. The two suddenly felt a hint of danger with their observation hockey, and were about to leave immediately, but it was too late. Two purple and golden meteors flew out directly from the boulder in front of them, breaking the original surface of the boulder, and also attached armament hockey, smashing into Ghost Spider and Fire Mountain. Bang bang bang, the huge force brought by the meteors directly knocked the two people down, but after the two reacted, they also endured the pain and inserted the knife into the deck for a distance to stop the impact of being hit, but the deck was also scratched by them. A large mark. Oh, I was tricked. Fire Mountain's original smile was gone, and now he said with a bitter smile. Pirates, dare to play with us like this. On the contrary, Huo Shaoshan said a little angrily. But the two of them and some other Navy soldiers looked at the purple and gold meteorites, that is, Ziliu and Jinyu, flying towards the distance, but at the same time, everyone also found three figures flying towards this side. Needless to say, these three people are naturally the two sisters Alan and Lucy Luke. After all, except Alan, who can summon such a big stone here now, except the two sisters, who else can be the owner of Ziliu and Jinyu? The three of them soon came to the front of the warship, about 80 meters apart, more than 40 meters away from the sea. After coming here, Alan taunted, "You two Navy vice admirals are still capable, and you can dissolve my boulders so easily." Ha ha, brother Alan, you were hit by my sister and my meteorite. The combined attack just now was too perfect. Liu Kei laughed after hearing this. Obviously, whether it was the previous boulders or the purple stream and golden meteorite hidden in the last two boulders, they were all combined attack skills performed by Alan and the two sisters. Now the two meteor balls are integrated with the two sisters, so the two sisters can naturally manipulate the meteor balls to form armed color domineering on the surface of the stone. This is not difficult, as long as the level of armed color domineering is higher. Obviously, the three of them had noticed the naval warships here a long time ago, so they had dang set of combined attack skills. Haha, you guys really look capable. Pirates, I won't forgive you. Huo Shaoshan still had a smiling expression, and Ghost Spider said it with a fierce expression, but in their hearts, the two had begun to become serious because of what they had just done. They had completely understood that from the departure from the Navy headquarters to now, they had underestimated the other party a little bit, whether it was intelligence or the fact that the other party was indeed young, but with Dang's song, especially with weapons, they could actually add armed color domineering to the stone. The other party must be not simple, but at the same time, the two were also very surprised. These three people should be just crew members, and according to the latest information, they should be the two sisters Lucy and Luke who are navigators, and Alan who works as a chef on the ship. Then, as the captain, Kuruda, who is heard to have the domineering color, must be stronger than the three people in front of him. These three people are already stronger than them. They are vice admirals, so these three are at least candidates for admirals of the Navy. Doesn't that mean Kuruda is stronger than the three people in front of him? Luda has already injected the strength of a Navy admiral. Thinking of this, the two of them were suddenly horrified. At the same time, they already knew that this time's capture mission was impossible to complete. Nonsense, although the other party was a pirate, they were the Navy, but their strength was stronger than theirs, so what was the point of capturing? So this time they could only choose a path they had looked down on before, that is, to test the other party's strength a little bit, and then retreat. But at the same time, they still did not forget another point. The two of them did not turn their heads and looked at each other for a while. Huo Shaoshan smiled again and said, "Haha, you pirates actually came to the Navy ship on your own initiative. Although we have lost the ability to fire at a long distance, you underestimate us, don't you? We have a lot of people here." Huo Shaoshan's words were actually to buy some time for Ghost Spider. They did not forget that if the latter situation occurred, they must immediately open the video phone bug and shoot back the results of their battle with the opponent, so that Marshal Zhongguo and others can see it, and then conduct a specific analysis so that they can know themselves and the enemy in the next battle. In other words, they now need to obtain more information about the opponent. This is indeed what Huo Shaoshan said. Although they have lost the ability to fire now, they are still more advantageous on their warship. After all, the opponent only has 3 people, and they have so many Navy soldiers. Even those Navy soldiers can shoot from the side. At this time, Ghost Spider has also sent a signal to some Navy soldiers behind with his hair. The Navy soldiers who received the order immediately set up the video phone bug and shot back everything that happened here. At this time, in the sky, Kuruda also saw such a scene through Latora, and smiled immediately. Great, he could brush up his reputation with the high-ranking officers of the Navy. But now it is also very simple. Even when eating in the restaurant, Kuruda is also concerned about the battle on this side. If Alan and his team encounter any accidents, he can always provide support or send monsters. But just hearing what Huo Shaoshan said, Lucy smiled immediately, then took out the ghost token, and said to the Navy below, "Your information is outdated. Who told you that there are only 4 of us on our ship, including the captain?" What? Hearing this, whether it is the 2 vice admirals Ghost Spider and Huo Shaoshan below, or the sharp soldiers of the Navy, or Sengoku who is already in his office, watching all these scenes at the Navy headquarters, and Garp who is eating senbei next to him. They were all surprised and showed incredible looks. Could it be that the other party has other people besides the captain and these people? But why don't they have any information at all? Besides, it has only been a few days, and I haven't heard that the other party is recruiting people. But Lucy didn't give them a chance to think about it, and directly took the token and said, "Come out, ninjas." The token is now in Lucy's hand, and Kuruda also gave him the temporary right to use the token. The token began to work, and soon in those shadows, whether it was the shadow of the warship or some dark places on the ship, or those pairs of blood-red eyes had opened, the ninja soldiers had walked out of there, or jumped onto the railings and sails. The originally empty deck was suddenly full of people, including the original Navy soldiers. And seeing the sudden appearance of the enemy, especially the appearance of the ghost shadow soldiers, gray-green skin, red eyes, even these well-trained Navy soldiers were frightened by the sudden appearance of the ninja soldiers. What's the situation? When did these people appear? Ghost Spider said dully as he looked at these people. Is this outfit the legendary ninja? And can he come out of the darkness? Is this also the so-called ninjutsu in the legend? Huo Shaoshan said with a dull expression. Obviously, the 2 vice admirals were shocked. But they still had to prepare for battle immediately and clench their swords, of course, including some Navy soldiers below. Either they clenched their fists or clenched their weapons, including swords and guns, ready to be the sharp blades of battle at any time. Just at the Navy headquarters, seeing these ninjas, Sengoku and Garp were also stunned for a while. You know, as old Navy men, they were all promoted from ordinary soldiers in the past. They had seen all kinds of storms and other species, but it was the first time for them to see ninja soldiers like this. But generally speaking, ninjas and the like can always be thought of as countries that have been occupied by Kaido. Wano country is a country dominated by samurai, with its own unique cultural characteristics. They have heard that the earliest ninjas and some of their training methods also came from Wano country. Sengoku, do you think these ninjas are from Wano country? Garp said directly to Sengoku next to him. Currently, there are only 2 of them in the office. Den Mushi has just communicated. Although someone has been sent to inform Crane and the 3 admirals, it has only been a few days and there are no other special activities, so even the 3 admirals have not been sent out to perform tasks. But soon, the 4 of them will be here soon, but there is only Sengoku around now, so Garp can only ask him. I don't know about this either. After all, there are no strong men who are famous for being ninjas, or some special forces. But I observed before, and there are indeed a lot of ninjas over there, although I don't know how strong they are, so I can only wait and see. And I didn't expect that, in addition to Kuruda, these 3 are also strong men, at least at the level of Vice Admiral. The original pursuit plan can only end in failure. Now I just hope they can hold on for a while, then retreat and help us collect more information. Sengoku first answered Garp's words, and then said directly. When he saw so many ninjas, and the strength exposed by the 2 sisters Alan and Lucy Luke, at least above the level of Vice Admiral, thinking that the other party also has a captain, and it is above this arrest is no longer realistic, it is better to take advantage of this time to collect more intelligence and prepare for the next arrest or elimination. It seems that this is the only way. Garp nodded and said, to be honest, he had been with Kuruda and the others in the past, and he still didn't want them to be arrested like this. He also heard about their deeds. Hearing that they only killed evil people and helped civilians, the disappointment of the last time suddenly disappeared. Garp smiled after hearing that it was still the same group of people last time, and they hadn't changed. However, when he thought of hearing that his grandson seemed to have gone to sea as a pirate, he suddenly had a headache. He was thinking about when to find a reason to go back quickly so that Luffy would be stopped before entering the Grand Navigation, so that he could change his mind under the iron fist of love and become a navy. All-out war. But at this moment, seeing the picture coming from the phone, Sengoku sat up and said, Garp looked over and found that the war had indeed started over there. Ninjas, kill all these navy. Lucy, holding the token, gave orders directly. At the same time, Alan found Ghost Spider. He was a little interested in such an 8-sword swordsman, so he decided to cook this spider. With the consent of his sister, Luke flew down to control the purple flow and crashed into the burning mountain. At the same time, Alan, who was attacking Ghost Spider, also directly wrapped the armament hockey on the clear sky hammer and swung the hammer. With a bang, since Alan attacked the left side of Ghost Spider also used the 4 swords on the left to resist the hammer, and also used the armament hockey, but felt the huge power coming from the sword, which still made his face change greatly. He was directly hit by Alan's hammer and Ghost Spider hit the fence next to him. But Alan took advantage of the situation to chase and directly use the boulder missile against Ghost Spider. Several large boulders were hit at him like cannonballs. At the same time, Huo Shaoshan also used his own sword to block Liu Kei's purple flow. But Liu Kei flew over immediately and kicked the purple flow. The powerful force, plus the inertia from the air, even made Huo Shaoshan retreat several steps. Paper painting. Huo Shaoshan also hurriedly used one of the 6 styles, paper painting, which unloaded the whole body's strength and made the body as thin as paper through the changes in the airflow caused by the opponent's actions. He could easily control his body and dodge any attack directed at himself. So just like that, this was a completely evasive physical skill. Huo Shaoshan dodged this move, then turned and slashed at Liu Kei with a knife. But he was directly blocked by Liu Kei's foot wrapped in armed color domineering, and kicked. The 2 of them were in a stalemate. As for the spider ghost next to him, he once again swung his sword and cut all the boulders into pieces, but was also smashed down by Alan's hammer. The spider ghost could only use 8 swords to block the powerful hammer. At the same time, the Navy soldiers on the ship also fought with the Ninja Corps. Some ninja soldiers and Navy soldiers directly used physical skills to exchange ideas, and some used weapons to fight each other. Although many Navy soldiers here can use 2 moves and 6 styles, the ninja soldiers who are not afraid of death and have rich experience can also face it completely. In addition, if they really encounter danger, they can also sneak into the enemy's shadow, avoid attacks, and then sneak out of the shadow to attack. Moreover, the ninja soldiers are proficient in various weapons and their combat capabilities are ever-changing, so soon, there will definitely be casualties on the Navy side, and the number of ninja soldiers is also decreasing. But soon, whether it is the Navy soldiers who killed the ninja soldiers, or the Sengoku and Garp seen on the phone, was stunned, because at the moment of killing the ninja soldier turned into a ball of black energy and disappeared. What is going on here? Am I dazzled? Where is such a big living person? Garp said with his eyes wide open, his eyes full of disbelief. But let alone him, even the warring states next to him, and the Crane and the 3 generals who had already arrived here were dumbfounded when they saw this scene. What is going on? I don't know either, but what is certain is that these ninjas are not ordinary creatures at all. Warring States shook his head and said seriously. Chapter 31. The others nodded after hearing this. After all, how could a creature die like this without even leaving a corpse? But at the same time, they were also very curious. What kind of creature was this? Everyone here was strong and well informed, but they just didn't know it. Of course, they would be curious about the unknown. But you see, the number of these black ninjas is also decreasing. They should still be dead. Aokiji Kuzan pointed his finger at a corner of the screen and said. Indeed, now in the screen, not only the Navy soldiers are constantly injured and killed, but even the ninja corps disappeared after death, and the number did not increase. After all, it is a token, not a direct ghost mask, or the power of the general, so there are certain limitations. Lucy saw the ghost corps that was also decreasing, and immediately thought of what Kuruda said before he set off about the ghost token. The strength of the ghost ninja soldiers is basically a Navy lieutenant level strongman, and can only summon more than 500 people at a time, and there is a cooling time. In other words, it cannot be used continuously in a short period of time. Lucy didn't say much about this. It was reasonable for such a magical item to have such a restriction. Otherwise, if it could summon the ghost corps infinitely, such an item would have to have a name in history. But she never thought that this token had only appeared on the sea today and was not an item from this world. And seeing the Navy soldiers who had been completely suppressed, Lucy didn't think there was anything wrong. At least the Navy sergeant could let these ghost soldiers to delay or even destroy them. At the same time, she also saw that Brother Alan had broken the deadlock. Ghost Spider seemed to be unable to hold on and directly used paper painting to avoid the hammer. Alan also directly hit the railing and the deck below with a hammer, smashing them all into pieces. Good opportunity, watch it, you fat man. Seeing Alan who hadn't put away the hammer, Ghost Spider's eyes suddenly lit up. He thought he had seized the opportunity, so he immediately stabbed out with 2 swords, and these 2 swords also use the finger gun among the 6 styles. Gather all the strength of the body on the index finger, and use the hardened finger to release a blow in a flash. The fingertips have the attack power of bullets, which can easily penetrate the human body. It can also be used on 5 weapons, such as fired bullets, or some sharp weapons. Ghost Spider is full of confidence in this move. Not only has the opponent not put away the hammer, but the angle is tricky, and it is difficult to use other physical skills to react. Although this guy should be a devil fruit ability user who can control the soil, it is too late now compared to physical skills. As for the armed color domineering, he does not believe that the opponent's little devil can bring much defense when it is used in a hurry. So Ghost Spider is full of confidence in this move. But when he heard Ghost Spider actually called him fat, Alan's eyes were full of anger. He hated the enemy calling him that the most. Thinking of Kuruda saying that he could go all out this time, he decided to use that move. Or it can be said to be a kind of ability. Alan glared at Ghost Spider, and then a special pressure came out of his body, and a huge energy surged over. Ghost Spider felt a huge sense of oppression, and a force rushed over, and quickly used 3 long swords to press against his chest again to defend. But soon, Ghost Spider was pushed out by Alan's domineering. The domineering that has reached a high level can not only release spiritual power, but also stun some small minions and soldiers like the domineering spirit. Even the domineering pressure released can cause some actual damage and push people out. At the same time, it was not only Ghost Spider that was affected. If the domineering basically releases pressure, it will cause large-scale damage, so soon, the entire 2 warships were all affected. Suddenly, Liu Kei and Huo Shaoshan, who were originally in a stalemate on another ship next to them, were also affected by the domineering, but it was mainly Huo Shaoshan, and Liu Kei was slightly smaller. After all, Alan could still control the domineering to distinguish between enemies and friends. So now Huo Shaoshan quickly revealed his flaws, and Liu Kei caught him. After retracting his legs, Liu Kei directly kicked Huo Shaoshan out with a flying kick. As for those Navy soldiers, they were basically weak, so they were naturally stunned. The Ghost Corps did not. After all, they were not real life. Now the Navy who can still stand and continue to fight are only Huo Shaoshan and Ghost Spider, and the others are all stunned. At this time, the battle between the two sides also stopped because Alan released the Conqueror's Haki. Huo Shaoshan and Ghost Spider all looked at Alan in dumbfounded eyes. Because as senior vice admirals, they have recognized him. After all, they mainly active in the New World, naturally able to hold back this power, but never expected to see it in the East China Sea, on such a little fat guy, and not just ordinary strong. How is it possible, you actually have the Conqueror Haki as well? Ghost Spider said dully looking at Alan. How could it be? This is not consistent with the intelligence. Isn't it the kid named Kuruda who has the Conqueror Haki? Why does this little fat guy have it too? Huo Shaoshan also said a little dumbfounded. Obviously, the two still couldn't believe it. Of course, it wasn't just them who saw this scene through the video phone bug, the senior Navy officials who also had an expression of disbelief. Garp, I remember you said that this little fat guy who seemed to be called Alan seemed to be the other side's chef. Sengoku said to Garp next to him with some trembling. Conqueror's Haki, that's Conqueror's Haki. Let's not talk about those strange ninjas. It's still within the normal human range. There are currently 4 people on the other side, and there are only 3 people here. But I didn't expect that in addition to the captain, there is another person who has Conqueror's Haki. But the problem is that in a pirate group, in addition to the captain, there is actually another person who has Conqueror's Haki, and he is also so young and a chef. How can he remain calm? Now Sengoku, who still can't believe it at all, can only ask Garp this question, because he still can't believe what he sees. Sengoku, I know you can't believe it, but that time I ate a lot of food made by this little fat man with my own hands. He is really a chef. Alas, the world has really changed. Even chefs have Conqueror's Haki. Garp shook his head and said, but at the same time, his heart was full of bitter smiles, lamenting that he seemed to be old and couldn't keep up with the pace of young people. Wow, there is actually a chef with Conqueror's Haki, this is really scary. Borsellino said beside him, pretending to be scared. Even if he is the owner of Conqueror's Haki, the other party is just a young man. As a Navy admiral, he naturally did not take him seriously, but he finally attracted some attention because the other party could suppress a senior vice admiral like Ghost Spider, so at least he is a candidate for admiral, and the candidate for admiral can already attract his attention. Humph, what a troublesome group of guys, whether it is this group of little ghosts or this group of ninjas. I said that I should go, I can definitely burn them to ashes with my magma. Sakazuki next to him said angrily, slapping the table. Okay, all of you calm down a little, at least we know that the other party actually has a Conqueror's Haki owner, so we don't have to be caught off guard by this one. He shook his head and said, he had long lost hope for this arrest. But soon, the next scene shocked the 6 of them again. Still on the Navy ship, Liu Kei suddenly pouted angrily, and then burst out the power of the domineering color domineering, pressing towards Huo Shaoshan. What did you call Brother Ku just now, kid? You old immortal, die for me. Lucy, with an angry face, spun several times on the spot, and as a golden energy entangled the purple stream was also thrown out by Luke and blasted towards Huo Shaoshan. At the same time, it was not just Luke. When Lucy heard someone slandering her beloved brother Ku, she first ordered the ghost ninjas to stay on the spot, and then released the domineering aura at the same time, picked up the golden stream and rushed down. At the same time, above the golden stream, there was also a golden domineering energy. Seeing the meteor balls coming towards him, even if there were 2, Huo Shaoshan still had a smiling expression, but now seeing the state of the 2 sisters and the golden energy on the meteor balls, he was dumbfounded, his mouth opened wide, and his eyes widened. Not only him, but even the Ghost Spider next to him, and the high-ranking Navy officials who saw this scene through the video phone bug were also dumbfounded. At this time, whether it was Huo Shaoshan who was at the scene or Garp who was watching over there, they all said 5 words. Domineering color entanglement. Especially Huo Shaoshan, who roared directly, because he was the one who was going to be hit by the Conqueror's haki. He also wrapped his samurai sword with armament haki with all his strength, and then began to resist the 2 meteor balls. However, under the same level, the one who can master the wrapping of Conqueror's haki is definitely more advantageous and overwhelming. It didn't take long for Huo Shaoshan to be beaten back by the meteor balls one after another, and Lucy and Luke also took the opportunity to step forward and fight. At the same time, Ghost Spider was not feeling well. When he saw the battle over there was starting when he was feeling weak and sluggish, he suddenly felt a terrible energy again, and it was very familiar, as if he had seen it not long ago. Then he turned around and saw Alan smiling at him, and then he continued to release the domineering color domineering aura while adding the domineering color entanglement to the clear sky hammer. You can do it too. Ghost Spider said in amazement. All 4 people in the group can actually entangle with the domineering color. What the hell is this? What is this possibility? Is he still asleep? But anyway, Alan smiled at him, and then directly picked up the hammer and smashed it over. Ghost Spider quickly held up his sword to block, but this time it really didn't work. After all, it was the domineering color domineering entanglement, and this hammer, Alan also strengthened the power. With a bang, Ghost Spider was directly hit by Alan's hammer and flew out. But it was not over yet. Alan hit a big boulder with another hammer, and the boulder directly hit the chest of Ghost Spider who was not fully prepared. This sudden impact directly hit Ghost Spider to vomit blood. Who said you were a little devil? Say it again. A mere vice admiral of the Navy, I am not afraid of anyone except those 2 old men. Alan roared and attacked Ghost Spider frantically with the hammer again. And basically every move was entangled with the domineering color or the armed color, which made Ghost Spider miserable. On the contrary, the Fire Mountain on the other side was not good either. The 2 sisters Lucy and Luke cooperated well, and with the power of the twin fruit, they could even fight a completely life-threatening battle. In addition, the 2's armament haki and overlord haki are also at the advanced level, and the gap between the strength of the general candidate and the vice admiral is still very large. Now Huo Shaoshan can basically get no benefit from the 2 sisters. Lucy took advantage of Liu Kei's brief suppression of Huo Shaoshan and directly used the ghost token to order the ninja soldiers to tie up the unconscious Navy soldiers first, and at the same time, control the 2 Navy warships. She did not forget Kuruda's order. If she could capture them, she would capture them directly, but the 2 vice admirals must be seriously injured and then brought back. Through these prisoners, she deliberately blackmailed the Navy headquarters. Although they are rich in supplies now, how can they dislike the lack of supplies? What if it can't be installed on the bowl? At that time, the worst case is to buy some space storage items in the mall. Since he is a big villain, he naturally has a very rich and huge treasure. And these people are also good audiences. When the time comes, they can transmit the images back to the Navy headquarters through them in the video telephone bug, and they can earn a lot of reputation points again. This is Kuruda's purpose, in an orderly manner, one link after another. Soon, the ninja soldiers took action after receiving the order. They either took out ropes to tie up the Navy soldiers, entered the cabin, and took down the remaining fish that escaped the net, or took control of the cockpit. Seeing this scene with their peripheral vision, Ghost Spider and Fire Mountain were shocked. Now it's good, they can't even escape. You know, they don't have the ability to fly. The nearest place is Shields Town, but going there is completely desperate. After all, the captain of the other party is still there. Isn't it a sheep sending a tiger into the mouth? But the 2 were also under the fierce attack of Alan and others, and they couldn't get away at all. It was only a matter of time before they were defeated and captured. At this time, in the office of the Marshal of the Navy headquarters who saw this scene through the video phone. How is this possible? Zhang Guo pointed at the screen and said with some trembling. What kind of joke is this? Even Akainu Sakazuki said angrily. Wow, all of them have Conqueror haki, this is really scary. Even Borsellino was not pretending this time, but was really surprised. The key is that they are still so young. Even Aokiji said with the same expression yesterday. It's only been a few years since I last saw them. Are these young people so powerful? They have mastered Conqueror haki and even its entanglement. But even if the three of them have mastered it, then Kuruda may also. The facts are in front of us. This is indeed a very promising pirate group. Moreover, they have cultivated conqueror haki to the level of mastering entanglement. Crane shook her head first, and then said in admiration, because it was also the first time she saw such a promising team of young people. But they are only these 4 people at present. When have you seen or heard of them? That pirate group has 4 owners of conqueror haki, and they have already learned to entangle. Even the Rocks pirates before Rocks died, those crew members, even the current 4 emperors, few of them could entangle. What is this? It seems to be called the Fallen Pirates. They already have the prototype of surpassing the Lotto's pirates. We must face them with the most cautious and prudent attitude. After Sengoku reacted immediately, he took a deep breath and said heavily. Obviously, he has regarded Kuruda's Fallen Pirates as the Rocks Pirates of the Year. Everyone nodded after hearing it, but they were still very shocked by the Rocks Pirates of the Year. Can this Fallen Pirates really match or surpass it? If so, they really have to put a lot of focus on it. Only Sakazuki looked at it with disdain, because in his eyes, conqueror haki is still so what if they have entanglement. After all, they are just a group of little ghosts and a group of inferior ninjas. Ah, but suddenly a scream came from the screen, attracting everyone's attention, and then their faces suddenly became ugly. So violent. It turned out that at this time, Alan grabbed the hair behind Ghost Spider with one hand, and then madly hit his face with the clear sky hammer, and the scream came out like this. Looking at the senior Navy officials in the office, it was a breath of cold air, especially Ghost Spider's bloody face that was already horrible. Finally, Alan's clear sky hammer attached rocks again, and then the Overlord color armament color was entangled with it. A hammer hit his chest, and Ghost Spider flew backwards and crashed into the sail behind. Everything Ghost Spider went to was smashed, which was horrible. Finally, Ghost Spider couldn't stand the pain anymore, and vomited a lot of blood and fainted directly in the rubble on the ship. With strong reluctance, he never thought that he would be defeated by such a little fat guy, and so easily. The opponent definitely has the strength of a candidate for a general, and is even extremely close to a general. No, this little fat guy may really become a strong man at the level of a general in the future. This is the last thought of Ghost Spider before he fell into a coma. Ghost Spider, 2 girls, I will fight you. Seeing the miserable appearance of Ghost Spider, even Huo Shaoshan could no longer force a smile, but seeing the 2 girls on the opposite side attacking again, he once again rushed up with an angry sword. Make a final desperate battle, because he understands that they are now doomed, and he may become a prisoner, but even so, he will bite off a piece of the opponent's flesh in the end, and the opponent is just a little girl. If he loses to these 2 little girls, as an old man at the level of a lieutenant general, how can he face people in the future? Soon, Huo Shaoshan used all his strength to wrap his armament haki around his samurai sword, and combined with the 6 styles to increase his speed and attack power, he slashed at the 2 sisters with one sword, but was blocked by the 2 sisters' armament haki and domineering haki flow stars. Golden Meteorite. Lucy made a move, and the golden flow directly summoned a large meteorite, which directly knocked Huo Shaoshan out from top to bottom and into the air. Meteor Shower. Then he was easily solved by Luke's meteor shower, and finally he couldn't hold on and fainted. In this way, this time, the 2 warships sent by the Navy headquarters, plus 300 elite soldiers and 2 vice-admirals, were completely annihilated and became prisoners of the target. But it was also Kuruda and the others who were playing the pig to eat the tiger before, including now. Until this battle, neither Alan nor the 2 sisters had even used their devil fruit abilities. Some of the real passive abilities of the twin fruit, as well as the ancient evil beast of the Teoti fruit itself, the power of Teoti. Seeing that the matter had been settled, Lucy directly ordered the ninja soldiers to first lock up Ghost Spider and Fire Mountain, and then drive the 2 warships to the side of the bull. At the same time, Lucy also continued to execute the last order given by Kuruda, directly waking up a high-ranking naval officer, and then directly threatened. Find the telephone Mushi to contact your headquarters within 3 days. Whoever comes, take out 50 million Baileys to redeem you people. If you don't, you will all be executed and your bodies will be thrown into the sea to feed the sea kings and fish. The awakened naval officer was immediately frightened and trembling all over. He didn't expect such a little girl to have such a cruel side, but he quickly did it and immediately found a telephone Mushi and dialed it. It seems that they haven't found the video telephone Mushi yet, and they have already taken pictures of their side. Aokiji said immediately. HMPH, after all, he is from a small place, from the East China Sea. He probably only knows about Den Den Mushi, and doesn't know that there are many types of Den Den Mushi. Sakazuki said contemptuously. Ahem. Garp coughed twice unhappily on his face, and Sakazuki was embarrassed. He forgot that there was a big guy here from the East China Sea. But Garp just glanced at him, and then said to Crane and Sengoku, "You are also clear about the other party's conditions. You must hand over 50 million Baileys within 3 days. What do you think? The other party is not asking too much. 50 million is worth it. The 2 senior generals of the Navy, plus those soldiers and warships, are actually more than this price, so let's send someone over." Crane looked at everyone and said, "That's the case. Kuzan, Garp, you go there. From the Navy headquarters, drive Garp's warship to go there at full speed. It won't take 3 days. Once the people are rescued, you two will attack directly. With Kuzan's freezing ability and Garp's iron fist, I believe we can definitely defeat the other party. This pirate group has the potential to be completely comparable to the Rock's pirates. We must completely defeat it before it grows up, otherwise our navy will definitely have trouble sleeping and eating in the future." Quote. Zhang said with a serious face. He would never allow such a pirate group to continue to be at large and grow up, because once this pirate group is allowed to grow up, the other party is still so young, and they, the older generation, don't know how many years they can live. If this threat cannot be eliminated in the cradle in advance, the Navy may really be destroyed by the other party in the future. As the current commander of the Navy, he must eliminate such a threat in the cradle. The others basically nodded. They had also witnessed it with their own eyes, so the quality was very clear. Although the opponent currently only had 4 normal humans and a large group of ninjas, the potential talents shown by their hands and their age were really a bit scary. If this threat cannot be dealt with in time, in the future, such a small snowball will eventually roll into a big snowball that is enough to overwhelm the Navy. Moreover, Aokiji, Garp, an admiral, and a Navy hero, with powerful freezing ability and unharmed iron fist, are enough to nip such a threat in the bud. Originally, Sakazuki was very unhappy and couldn't let him go this time, but when he heard Marshal Sengoku say that the 4 emperors of the New World were restless again and needed him and Kizaru to go there, he could only nod his head, because in his eyes, the weight of the 4 emperors of the New World was naturally greater than these few little ghosts. Although Aokiji was a bit lazy and reluctant, he had to go because it was the Marshal's order. As for Garp, he was very happy. He hadn't thought of a reason to go back to the East China Sea to educate his grandson before. Now it's just on the way, isn't it? As for Kuruda and the others, after his understanding of them in the past few days, they are not really bad guys. Let them go if they can. Moreover, he has a hunch that even if he and Aokiji are together this time, it is estimated that it will be difficult to take them down. After all, the other party still has a lot of confidence, which they don't know yet. As for the video telephone bug, they have already turned it off. After all, the Navy was actually captured by pirates. Such a shameful thing, they can't stand it. Even in this regard, in order to prevent bad public opinion from being sent out, Sengoku has ordered to suppress those newspapers as much as possible. In short, this matter must not be spread. But unfortunately they forgot one person, that is, the Intelligence King, one of the 6 Dark Kings of the Underground, Morgans, the president of the World News Agency. With the 2 large Navy warships before, coming all the way from the Navy headquarters to the East China Sea, it will naturally attract this person's attention to see if there is any big news. So the first confrontation between the fallen pirates and the Navy has been photographed by the newspaper seagulls and some people from the World News Agency. At this time, Morgans was overjoyed. I didn't expect that such a tracking would really encounter big news so soon. After his furious writing and printing, the newspaper seagulls immediately delivered the new newspaper to the world. Most of the titles are like this. Super rookies appeared in the East China Sea, all of them are the owners of the domineering color. The strongest rookie pirate group has appeared in the East China Sea. The Navy was actually captured by the pirates for money. Is this a moral decline or loss? The magical black ninja, hiding in the shadow, the magical death, is it related to Wano country? It has to be admitted that Morgans is quite capable of being the best in the world in intelligence, or a bit literary, and these news are quite attractive. Of course, there are photos as evidence, including Alan and the two sisters, who have released Conqueror's Haki and used Conqueror's Haki. And many scenes of ghost ninjas fighting with Navy soldiers, and the scene of the Navy being captured in the end. And this time, the sea was completely shaken, because it was really a bit shocking when all this information was added together. There was no way such explosive news even alarmed the four emperors. Dressrosa Kingdom. Now this country is ruled by the former celestial dragon, Don Quixote, Doflamingo and his family, the Don Quixote family, who has the ability of the string fruit. He is also an underground king, and a top-level 7 warlords of the sea, with a bounty of 340 million. Blonde, wearing sunglasses, a pink feather coat and cropped pants, and is used to wearing pointed shoes. Looking at the newspaper handed over by his subordinates, after seeing the content on it, Doflamingo was silent for a while, and then suddenly let out his unique laugh. It's really interesting. With such a group of newcomers, it seems that a new era is really coming soon. And what are the origins of those ninjas? Are they really from Wano country? The next time the 3 calamities come to get artificial devil fruits, it's better to ask. Doflamingo said successively, but in the end it was obvious that he had developed a little interest in the ghost ninja. In the second half of the Great Voyage, the territory of the New World Red Hair Pirates was on an island, to be precise, with their pirate ship, Red Force, docked next to it. Now, Red Hair Shanks, one of the 4 emperors, who has a bounty of more than 4 billion, is watching his companions hold a banquet, and at the same time, he has received a new newspaper from Seagull. Looking at the information above, was stunned at first, then suddenly laughed. Haha, this is really interesting. The Navy has embarrassed itself this time. Although I don't know what will happen next, we can wait. But Captain, the new era you were looking forward to seems to have finally begun. I don't know if Luffy has already set out to sea. The reaction of this 4 emperors is quite normal. The other 4 emperors, namely the strongest creature, the strongest man, Whitebeard, Edward Newgate, and Iron Balloon Charlotte Linlin, originally only took a quick look at Kuruda's fallen pirates. After all, they came from the East China Sea, and now they are just a group of small newcomers. Let's talk about it when we come to the New World. But seeing the news this time, in addition to Captain Kuruda, even the little navigator and the chef are the owners of the Conqueror's Haki. Even these 3 were surprised, or a little sluggish, because the 3 of them thought of the memory of more than 30 years ago at the same time. Rocks Pirates. Now the 3 of them thought about it carefully. When the Rocks Pirates were first established, although they were the first to board the ship, at the beginning, except for Whitebeard, even Kaido and Charlotte Linlin did not dare to say that they had mastered the Conqueror's Haki at that time. Not to mention the Conqueror's Haki entanglement, they did not master this thing before the age of 20. As experienced people, they finally realized how terrifying the talent and potential of this pirate group are. At least now, it has even surpassed the Rocks Pirates of that year. Now even the 3 of them have sent people to focus on the fallen pirates. At the same time, many big pirates and leaders of big forces have all seen the newspapers and paid more or less attention to the fallen pirates, which is indeed the strongest rookie pirate team at present. But now, no matter what, the 2 sisters, Alan, Lucy, and Luke, asked the Ghost Corps to guard the Navy, notified the 2 warships to be next to the Bull, and immediately took out some of the stolen good wine and brewed juice from the kitchen of the Bull, and flew back to the restaurant immediately. Participated in this new friend dinner in time. Seeing that they finally came, Luffy and the other 2, especially Luffy, expressed their welcome one after another, but in fact, Luffy and Kobe were interested in the juice, while Zoro was interested in the wine. They believed that it was a strong man like Kuruda who specifically asked to bring it, so it must be some very delicious juice and good wine. At the table, everyone also introduced each other, but in addition to the 4 people on Kuruda's side and the 3 people on Luffy's side, there was actually another person. No need to guess, you know that it was naturally the little girl who was rescued by Zoro and later fed him rice balls. She was also invited to the table, a kind-hearted little girl, and how much she could eat. Kuruda can still afford it. After all, it would be a waste if he didn't spend so much money robbed from those noble pirates. However, everyone still talked about their abilities and goals. For example, Luffy wants to become the Pirate King, and he is a user of the rubber fruit, which is simply a devil fruit user. Zoro naturally wants to be the world's #1 swordsman. As for Kobe, he just wants to be a navy at the moment, as long as he reports to the school. Then there is Kuruda, who wants to be the ultimate villain and is a chaos fruit user. Alan, who wants to eat all the delicacies and cook all the delicacies in the world, is a chef and also a user of the mythical beast gluttony fruit. Two sisters who want to be super performers who can bring pain to bad people and bring joy to kind and innocent people, Lucy and Luke, are users of the twin fruit. As for the little girl, she is still too young, so let's talk about it later. Kuruda, I introduced Mr. Zoro to Luffy, so we came here. What about you? After finishing the meal, everyone returned to the square where the fight took place before, and Kobe asked such a key question. After asking, Luffy and Zoro also looked over with a curious expression, including the little girl. At the same time, Alan and the two sisters also suddenly realized that yes, they almost forgot that according to what Kulao said, they came this time to recruit a friend of Kulao in the past, and it seemed to be a powerful swordsman. Hearing this, thinking that the problem of the navy had been solved, it was time to continue to execute the original plan. Kurta smiled and said immediately, I am also here to recruit swordsmen. A friend I once introduced is here. Although I don't know if he is still here, I still want to try it if he hasn't left. Swordsman. Hearing that it was actually a swordsman, Zoro's eyes lit up immediately. He was determined to become the world's greatest swordsman, so he naturally had to challenge all kinds of swordsmen to continue to grow. So basically when he heard that the other party was a swordsman, he would challenge him, but he also had to see how strong the other party was first. He disdained to challenge the weak. The swordsman who can be valued by Mr. Kuruda should not be an ordinary person. Kobe next to him said with a surprised expression. Oh, really? That's really interesting, but if he is really still here, how are you going to call him out? Luffy laughed loudly with interest, but he was still very curious about how Kuruda would get this swordsman out. But sometimes the simplest way is the most effective way. Kuruda walked out of the crowd, and then roared like a real lion, so loud that the whole town of Shields could hear it. Sid, if you are still here, come out quickly. With Kuruda's current strength of at least admiral level, the sound of his words resounded throughout the town, and many residents were startled, and then they hid trembling. However, these were also relatively far away residents. At this time, Kuruda and his friends were actually on the same street. Many residents had already recognized that Kuruda was the hero who rescued them and killed Monka and his son, but the voice was so loud that they couldn't help but cover their ears. But at the same time, they had a little curiosity in their hearts. Who was the so-called Sid of this hero? But everyone was dumbfounded, including Alan and the two sisters, because this method of calling people out was too primitive and too stupid. Alan couldn't help but shushed his lips and asked, Brother Ku, this is the method you said, isn't it too? Too stupid, isn't it? Well, after yelling, Kuruda turned around and smiled at him. That's not what I meant, brother, don't get me wrong. Alan said with a smile. It doesn't matter, but this is the best way. Let's not talk about whether he is there or not, and I don't know where he lives. I can't go to each house one by one, so it's better to just call him directly. But it's been so long, and he hasn't come out with his strength. I guess he has left. Kuruda first showed that he didn't care about it, and then pretended to regret it. Brother Ku, it seems that your partner is really not here. Seeing that no one has appeared here for a long time and came to the door, Lucy immediately smiled bitterly and said, It's been so long, it seems that he is really not here. Liu Kei also agreed with her sister's words and said, Ah, I waited in vain. Luffy touched his head and said, a little disappointed, of course, including Kobe and Zoro next to him, especially Zoro, it seems that he will not be able to see the powerful swordsman that Kuruda said. As Zoro wanted to challenge the world's swordsman and become the world's #1 swordsman, he was naturally very disappointed. But only Kuruda himself knew that he had said the secret code agreed on the ship before, and it was so loud before, it was impossible for Sid not to hear it, so it should be here soon. After all, they have been looking forward to this battle for a long time. However, seeing that the other party has not appeared yet, although it is not clear what this guy is doing, this is also within the script, so he immediately turned around and said to everyone a little disappointed, Everyone, I'm sorry, it seems that my old friend is really not here. Ah, it doesn't matter, we are mentally prepared. What is that? Luffy still thought Kuruda was really disappointed, but in fact even the others were deceived, and he immediately comforted him, but suddenly he found something flying towards them. His face suddenly changed, but so did the others, because they felt danger from the flying object. Kobe, who was timid, was so scared that he sat on the ground. Well, this is, haha, it seems that this trip was not in vain. But the sharp-eyed Kuruda had already discovered that it was clearly the shadow crowbar he had helped Sid choose. This guy finally came, and the battle finally began, so after laughing, he punched out with his fist with the armed color domineering, and immediately punched the two thrown shadow crowbars back with a clang. Why did Kuruda's hand suddenly turn black, and it seemed to have greatly enhanced his attack and defense power. Luffy clearly saw that Kuruda's hand seemed to be condensing something black just now. Although he didn't know what it was, with his amazing fighting talent, Luffy guessed that the black substance enhanced Kuruda's defense and attack power. That's domineering, Alan said without looking back. To be precise, it is armament hockey. You can attach a black energy substance to your body, greatly enhancing your combat ability. The two sisters Luke and Lucy also said one after another. Then the three of them introduced to Luffy in detail what hockey is. They introduced all three types of hockey, even the Conqueror hockey. After all, the three of them have it, and the boss will probably use it later, so it's better to talk about it all. However, such an explanation also shocked Luffy and the other two. They didn't expect that there is such a magical power in the world. At the same time, the three of them also made up their minds that their dream is destined to become strong, and they must master hockey. Until A's for the Conqueror's hockey, they can only go with the flow, but Luffy and Zoro have a hunch that they will definitely be able to master this most difficult hockey. But suddenly, everyone heard a sound, or two sounds mixed together. One rhythm sounded brisk, but full of heavy footsteps, and the other was the sound of a sharp weapon scratching the ground, constantly scratching. Everyone looked at the sound, including Kuruda, who had known about it in advance, and looked with a smile. It was discovered that a man was walking towards this side at this time, wearing a black hat, black combat uniform and battle robe, and the most important thing was the two crowbars that had hit this side before, which were attached to his waist. And holding a black long sword, he walked over with sparks and lightning all the way. At the same time, a very strong aura of a swordsman overflowed from the surface of his body. And feeling this swordsmanship, Zoro's eyes lit up, and there was even a flame full of excitement. Swordsman, definitely a swordsman, and a very powerful swordsman. He was about to draw the long sword on his waist and go out to declare war, but was stopped by Alan's hammer. Confused, Zoro looked at Alan, but Alan smiled and explained, "This should be the person my captain is looking for. Let my captain deal with it. Besides, this guy's eyes are only on my captain now." After hearing this, Zoro looked and found that it was indeed the case, so he had no choice but to give up, retract his sword, and stop the steps he was about to take. When Kuruda saw Sid walking towards him, he smiled and walked up directly, carrying the ultimate battle instrument on his shoulder. At the same time, the aura of a strong man belonging to Kuruda's current identity was also released. But before that, he also did another thing. After Lucy came back, she had returned the token to Kuruda. Kuruda directly ordered a ninja soldier to open the captured Navy video phone bug again. Now, this picture has been taken back and sent to the Navy headquarters. Now in the office, only Sengoku was left to deal with some things. When he saw the video Den Den Mushi opened again and sent back the live video, he didn't understand what was going on at first. Weren't the Navy soldiers captured? Who opened the Den Den Mushi? But soon, Sengoku was attracted by the two people in the picture. He naturally recognized one of them, and it was naturally the captain of the fallen pirates, Kuruda. The reason why it attracted attention was naturally because the pirate group was the most dazzling, and the most noteworthy one was naturally the captain. At the same time, he also wanted to know very much that the chef and navigator under him were so powerful, so what kind of strength did Kuruda, the captain, have? Otherwise, he didn't believe that strong people like Alan and the two sisters would follow Kuruda. There was only one possibility: Kuruda was stronger than them. So the current picture was a good opportunity to understand. Sengoku naturally put down the things at hand and watched intently. At the same time, he was also very curious, who was the man looking at Kuruda now? Holding a long sword in his hand, could it be a swordsman? At the same time, he also sent someone to call Crane, who was still at the headquarters. At the same time, after a brief glance at each other, it was Sid who spoke first. It's been a long time since we last met, Kurta. I know the purpose of your visit here. You are lucky. I am really leaving soon, but if you want me to board your ship, let me see your strength first. After Sid finished speaking, he directly released the Conqueror's Haki, and its energy fluctuations blasted towards Kurta. This new power he had acquired. Then you should be mentally prepared to board the ship and become the swordsman on my ship soon. Kurta laughed and released the Conqueror's Haki at the same time. Soon, the Conqueror's Haki of both sides collided with each other, impacting everything around them. Many fragile items such as glass were shattered, and many lighter items were also blown away. Even some residents living in the house and the soldiers of the naval branch far away on the other side all fainted because of the influence of these two Conquerors' Haki. Originally, Luffy and the other two, plus the little girl, would have fainted, but Zoro and Luffy would not. Now they are not weak, and they will have Conqueror Haki in the future. In other words, there is a seed of Conqueror Haki in their hearts. So even if they were affected by the Conqueror Haki of Kurata and the other two, Luffy and Zoro would not faint easily. The ones who really fainted were Kobe and the little girl, but Eren and the two sisters protected them. They were not affected by the Conqueror Haki. Luffy laughed in amazement and said, "Haha, is this Conqueror's Haki? Yoshi, I want to be the future Pirate King, and I must master it. Well, as the future #1 swordsman, I must have it too." Zoro also looked at Kuruda and the mysterious swordsman in the distance, nodded and said, obviously, he now also likes the power of Conqueror's Haki. This captain and the first officer have known the existence of the three-color Haki for a long time, and they are also interested. The future development may really far exceed the original work that Kuruda knows. But at this time, seeing the video Den Den Mushi transmitted again, both Sengoku and the Crane staff officer who had already arrived here could not help but widen their eyes and mouths again. This was already the nth time they had done this today, and it was all because of the same thing, even if it didn't happen to the same person. After quickly reacting, Sengoku was the first to roar impatiently, "What's going on? How come there is another newcomer with the domineering color domineering, and he can compete with Kuruda? This strength is definitely above the candidate general. Could it be that he has reached the level of general? Asshole, this is the East China Sea, right? When did so many strong people appear in the East China Sea? This sea is not quiet again, right?" The Crane staff officer sitting next to him just watched Sengoku roaring beside him, but at the same time, the expression on his face was not very good, because the two people were talking in the picture, and she had heard it clearly after she came here before. This mysterious swordsman probably knows Kuruda, and Kuruda came to such a town to recruit him. And if Kuruda can really recruit this swordsman successfully this time, then the fallen pirates will have another strong man with Conqueror Haki. The opponent's strength has been further strengthened. As a naval staff officer, this is not what she wants to see. But now, with a slight sigh, Crane said to Sengoku, "Sengoku, for now we can only watch like this. If it really doesn't work, let Momoshiki and Chaton take some people to catch up with Garp and the others. And through the current pictures and battles, we can also know the details of the other party. Then we can tell Garp and the others through Den Den Mushi. But you are right, these people must be captured immediately, and they must not be allowed to continue to grow on the sea." At this time, even Crane, who is usually more calm, has to admit that if the fallen pirates continue to develop like this, it is estimated that they will become a behemoth that even the Navy cannot shake in fear. It really must be wiped out in the cradle, otherwise, everything will be too late, and the Navy will wait to be beaten in the future. Then let Chaton and Mimosa catch up immediately after watching this war. While the other party has not grown up and has not officially entered the Grand Line, the fallen pirates must be completely wiped out here. Sengoku was relieved after hearing this, but still pinched his eyebrows and said, "It's started," he said immediately. It turned out that in the picture, Kuruda and Sid had already fought, and both sides moved at the same time. Sengoku had to readjust his state immediately and watch the battle. On the other side, still in Shield's town, the battle had already started. Kuruda and Sid rushed out at the same time, towards each other. Sid held the sword with both hands, and then slashed it horizontally after adding magic to the sword. Kuruda also held the stick with both hands and knocked it down, and added armed color domineering. With a bang, the power from two different worlds collided suddenly, setting off a huge airflow, spreading and affecting the surroundings. Several houses that were relatively close were blown into pieces, and even Luffy and his companions changed their faces and quickly hid to the side for a while. But after hiding a little further, looking at the two people who were in the process of energy collision, Luffy and his companions immediately looked at them with horror, so strong. But at this time, Zoro had already shed a drop of cold sweat behind his back. Looking at Sid, he suddenly felt that he seemed to be a little narrow-minded. Such a powerful swordsman, could he challenge him? The result was naturally that he could. Zoro was now looking at Sid with full fighting spirit. Even if he couldn't beat him and died, it didn't matter. He pursued swordsmanship and aimed to be the #1 swordsman. Even if he could die in the hands of such a swordsman, it would be worth it. Otherwise, would he still challenge Hawkeye Zoro as a low-level swordsman? But at this time, while Kuruda and Sid continued to collide with energy, they suddenly found that they were still in the town. They looked at each other for a while and understood the idea of both sides. Don't let it spread here, go outside and fight on the sea. But thinking of this, it was Kuruda who took the lead. First, he increased his strength to force Sid back, and then directly aimed the ultimate battle instrument at Sid. Battle Machine Chaos Shooting, Kuruda shouted. This was originally a skill of the battle machine, but Kuruda added a chaotic energy to it. Now it released a more powerful destructive beam, shooting towards Sid. Sid saw it and slashed with a sword. The sword full of magic directly collided with the destructive beam, but now Sid understood why Kuruda so he did. So while pretending to resist, he was pushed out by the light and flew towards the sea. Kuruda now maintained the light while ordering the ghost soldier to take the Den Den Mushi. He felt that it was almost done, so he stopped the output of the light, picked up the battle instrument and rushed out. When he found himself on the sea, looking at Kuruda who was chasing him, Sid directly slashed out a sword energy, and at the same time, it was full of purple magic. However, looking at the mighty and powerful sword energy coming towards him, Kuruda not only did not panic at all, but also smiled, because in his eyes, the sword energy displayed by this random sword was not enough to look at. Kuruda directly picked up the ultimate battle instrument again, added the armed color domineering and smashed it with a stick, and easily broke the sword energy. But soon, Kuruda was stunned for a while when he saw what happened next. Because Sid took the opportunity to slash out several sword energies in succession, these sword energies hit Kuruda like flying butterflies. Chaos kills lightning. However, this does not mean that Kuruda has no way to deal with it. White lightning energy appeared at both ends of the battle instrument at the same time, and the power of chaos was also added. Then, as the two sticks were thrown out, two lightnings with chaotic energy hit the sword energies. The penetrating power and destructive power of lightning, as well as the ability of chaos to annihilate, even Sid was a little surprised, and his sword energy was all destroyed by Kuruda's lightning. It's not over yet. Sid looked over and found that Kuruda had come to him at some point, and then hit him with a stick, and this stick not only had lightning with chaotic energy but also had armed color domineering entanglement. Oh my god, it's so big all of a sudden. Even Sid was shocked. But at the same time, he had made up his mind that it was time to get serious. Soon, Sid's eyes suddenly became firm, as if a continuous and huge amount of magic power came out of his body, and then all gathered on the shadow sword. Finally, Sid shouted loudly and slashed with a sword. Shadow, windward, one sword flow. This is Sid's sword move, which is his understanding of the sword in the other world for a long time, plus magic. Boom boom. The two finally touched each other with a stick and a sword. The collision of two huge energies also directly affected this piece of heaven and earth. The white clouds in the sky were all shattered, the sea below was roaring, countless sea kingfish fled in fear, and even the air seemed to be torn apart. Finally, the energy was almost unable to hold on. In the eyes of many people who were shocked and unbelievable, a violent explosion occurred. At the explosion site, which was the center of the two people's fight, a large amount of fire and smoke were produced. At the same time, the power of the explosion also returned the two to their original positions. But this is the sea after all, and the fierce sea breeze immediately blew away the flames and smoke, but this seemed to be a voice order. The two looked at each other at the same time as if they were staring at their prey, and all released their domineering. The two powerful domineerings collided in the air again. Soon, Sid finally showed his advantage, that is, speed. He came to Kuruda at a very fast speed and slashed with a sword. But Kuruda easily used the observation domineering to know in advance, and then blocked it with a stick, and wrapped the armed domineering with a stick, and hit it again. Sid took back a sword to resist again, and raised a stick for you and a sword for me, and launched a wonderful duel of swordsmanship and stick techniques in the air. At the same time, the two also took the wisdom and insights of the original world and collided with the power of the new world. Magic, domineering, physical skills, swordsmanship and stick techniques. Strength and skills are constantly displayed in this air, and they collide fiercely. So Kuruda is so strong. Luffy is usually always laughing and optimistic, but now seeing this battle, he seems to understand how huge the gap between him and the top masters is. After watching this battle, he has been a little dazed, and even wondered, if I don't have such strength, can I still become the Pirate King? As for Zoro, he now understands the gap between himself and the top masters, but he will not give up the opportunity to meet and compete with any swordsman, so after a while, when this war is over, he still wants to challenge Sid. On the contrary, Kobe was still shocked after all, but he also made up his mind to become stronger. Alan and the two sisters, the younger sister was also surprised that the swordsman favored by the boss was so powerful. No wonder the boss came to win him over at all costs. If they had never seen him before, they were still a little confused about his arrival. Then now they really hope that such a powerful swordsman can board their ship. The captain deserves such a powerful swordsman, and a top-level strongman, who can just make up for the lack of a swordsman on the ship. At the same time, through the video call, Zhang and he, who had talked about this scene, also became a little serious, because they could be very sure that both Kuruda and this swordsman had reached the strength level of a general. That's right, through this battle, Sengoku and Suru are very sure that the two people in the battle, whether it is Kuruda or the other mysterious swordsman, have already possessed the strength that is no less than that of the Admiral of the Navy. They are really not as good as the three strongest monsters in their navy today, but they are not much worse, and they are still young and have the opportunity to improve. On the contrary, Sengoku knows very well that the potential of the three people including Akainu has basically been exhausted at this age, and the three of them have no potential to be kings, so it is basically impossible for them to have the domineering color domineering. But this is because being able to possess the domineering color domineering, or the top domineering color, is the key to becoming an emperor-level strongman in this sea. If the other party continues to grow like this, Sakasuke and the other three will be surpassed sooner or later. The Navy really has no fresh blood now. Although some of the older generation are emperor-level warriors, their strength has been weakened as time goes by. In a few years, they may no longer be there. By then, these people will definitely become top-level warriors, and they will still be in the same pirate group. The Navy will definitely live in the shadow of each other. Thinking of such a possibility, both Sengoku and Crane trembled in their hearts. We must stop them, we must stop them. Someone go and notify Tautu and Chatten to catch up with Garp and the others to act together. Sengoku immediately slammed the table and shouted, and also issued an order to the intelligence command next to him. Yes, Marshal. The officer immediately saluted and left the office. Obviously, he had already notified Tautu and Chatten. Sengoku, if this swordsman really joins the fallen pirates, then the other side now has 2 admiral-level combat forces and 3 alternate admiral-level combat forces. Even with Tautu and Chatten, I'm afraid. Crane said with some concern. Don't worry, we are much bigger than the other side in terms of quality, and we also have Garp here. His strength has not been weakened much, plus Garp is very familiar with the East China Sea area. Even if the other side wants to escape, with such a large pirate ship, they can continue to pursue. We should believe them, and what if this swordsman does not join the other side? Zhang Guo immediately continued to speak again, expressing his own views, but the last sentence seemed to reveal a trace of Zhang Guo's own worries. I hope so. He shook his head and said, because she could see more than Zhang Guo. She still clearly remembered that the swordsman said recognition and acknowledgement. If so, the battle has been going on for so long, according to her certain understanding of these young strong men, the possibility of this mysterious swordsman boarding Kuruda's ship is really great. And the most important point is that in the bronze drum image, she didn't see Kuruda using the power of the devil fruit throughout the whole process, and what the hell is that lightning? It doesn't look like it is affected by domineering. Besides, they haven't figured out what the devil fruit abilities of the original 4 people on the other side are. In summary, she thought that even if Garp led the team personally, the possibility of defeating the opponent was not very high. Meanwhile, the battle between Kuruda and Sid was about to come to an end. The two had actually been fighting for almost an hour, although for the top strongman, a fight could last for 3 days and 3 nights or even 10 days. However, Kuruda and Sid were just sparring after all. Soon there was another clash of swords and sticks, and the two continued to confront each other in the air. Haha, this battle was fun. To be honest, I have never fought such a evenly matched battle, Sid said with a smile while holding the shadow long sword. Because this is the truth, when he first took the shadow courtyard to fight in the other world, he was already invincible. In such a world, all the battles he experienced were basically crushing, and he did not use his full strength at all, but now it was the first battle in the new world. He felt that this was a completely evenly matched battle, and he had never fought such a cool battle. This is why Sid couldn't help laughing now. So you agree to board my ship and become my swordsman? Kuruda also said with a smile, this time not pretending, but sincerely. Because only when the summoned villain completely recognizes him can the system authority be activated, and the summoned character will be 100% loyal to him, and he can regard this villain as a partner and become his comrade in arms in the future of the pirate world. No problem, but let's have another final collision. This time I will use all my strength to treasure a move. Sid nodded first, indicating that there is no problem at all. He is willing to board the ship and become Kuruda's swordsman, but this battle should be completed after the pleasure. So at this time, while saying this, Sid continued to pick up the shadow sword and pointed it at Kuruda, while showing a fighting spirit again. Then I will do as you wish. After saying this, Kuruda smiled and held the ultimate battle instrument with both hands. At the same time, the chaotic power, the lightning power stimulated from the battle instrument, and the armed color domineering entanglement and the domineering color domineering entanglement were all entangled on one end of the ultimate battle instrument. All these forces gathered on a stick. Such a huge power condensed that even the surrounding air fissioned. Okay, come on, Shadow Overlord, the wind-facing sword flow. Sid smiled, still the sword move he used before, but the power was much stronger than before, and this time he even entangled the domineering color, which greatly improved the power and destructive power. Not only that, even the use of magic power was improved. The power of this sword move must be more than 3 times that of the previous one. But similarly, Kuruda's move is not to be trifled with. The two rushed forward at the same time, and the stick sword had the final collision in this battle. Boom! This energy collision, after all, was produced between the collision of the two forces entangled in the domineering color, and the impact on everything around was even greater, and even more direct. It actually formed waves directly on the sea below. There were even some waves rushing towards the town of Shields, but fortunately, the final impact was not great, and it only slightly destroyed some buildings, and did not cause any casualties. After all, people had been scared away and ran to the other side or the center of the town. Soon, the energy could not hold up, and an explosion occurred again. However, the two were not pushed back this time, but were directly submerged in the explosion. Ah, are they okay? But seeing Luffy, who was still watching the battle, he suddenly said with his eyes wide open. Don't worry, such an explosion can't affect the two of you. Don't underestimate the top strong men. Zoro shook his head and said. Obviously, he didn't think that strong men like Kuruda and Sid would have any problems because of this explosion. After listening, the others nodded, expressing their agreement. Even Alan and the two sisters looked at Zoro more. This guy is quite rational. It's Luffy next to him. Sometimes his brain is really not good enough. Then suddenly they attracted attention again, because in the smoke, a figure fell down. But soon he supported his body and floated on the sea. Everyone was stunned when they saw it, because they found that it was Sid, and he held the sword with one hand weakly, and the other hand was placed on the shoulder of that hand. Even Sid's clothes were damaged a lot. I lost. Looking at the smoke above, Sid said with tears and laughter. He laughed because he lost, and cried because he lost. In short, Sid's thoughts are very complicated now. But the result must be good, because he finally lost after walking in the original world and was bored to death. He failed in his first attempt and cried when he finally lost, but he was more surprised and excited, because he did not make a mistake this time and followed the wrong person, and this world is really interesting. In other words, he finally recognized Kuruda as the captain of his world, and became a partner and comrade to travel, adventure, pretend, and fight against the so-called pseudo-justice and evil. Soon, the smoke above dissipated, and Kuruda looked fine in the eyes of everyone, except that his clothes were a little damaged, and the rest seemed to be unaffected. But the result of this battle was also very obvious: Kuruda won. Kuruda is now full of joy, 99.99% of joy, because of the joy brought by victory, and finally taking Sid back as his partner. "Sid, what do you say now?" Kuruda said to Sid below with the ultimate battle instrument on his shoulder. "What else can I say? Apply to get on board, Captain." Sid laughed. Congratulations to the host for finally gaining the recognition of Sid Kaganor. 100% loyalty has been activated. Don't worry about being betrayed by him. Please experience a wonderful adventure with the summoned villain. Seeing the words of the system appearing in his mind, Kuruda finally couldn't help laughing. He finally succeeded, and this play was not in vain, or so many plays. It is estimated that by tonight, he will be able to see at least 50,000 reputation points. But while laughing, he also said, "Welcome aboard, my swordsman." Soon, after the two returned to the port, they naturally welcomed the concern and congratulations of everyone. Even Luffy and his 3 companions were the same. After all, they were friends. The 2 sisters and Alan also welcomed Sid's arrival one after another. Sid had seen the 2 sisters fight with Alan before, so he had already recognized them as his partners. And the special powers that Kuruda mentioned before were those ninjas. Then Zoro couldn't wait to challenge Sid. "Well, Mr. Sid Kagano, my name is Zoro. My goal is to become the world's #1 swordsman, so I am determined to challenge the most powerful swordsman in the world, so please accept my challenge." Zoro saw that the time was almost right, so he quickly sent a challenge to Sid. His words shocked everyone. What was going on? Why did Zoro suddenly challenge? Only Kuruda nodded. This was the Zoro he knew. No matter how powerful the opponent was, for the sake of his dream, with Kuina's share, Zoro, a 3-sword swordsman, would challenge without fear. However, seeing that everyone had a puzzled expression on their faces, he immediately explained, which was considered to help Zoro, who was a little straight. It seems that Mr. Zoro is indeed a swordsman who pursues the ultimate swordsmanship, just as the rumors say, and such a situation is very common on the sea. Swordsmen compete with each other, especially challenging the strong. After hearing Kuruda's explanation, everyone suddenly realized that this was the case. And Sid also understood. So that's what happened. Let's challenge him, it's interesting. Although he could sense that the green-haired man in front of him was a little weak, he had a kind of persistence in his heart, so Sid did not underestimate Zoro. This is actually Sid's character. Even if the opponent is an ant, he will appear to be mocking and disdainful on the surface, but in fact he is completely serious in his heart. As the saying goes, a lion fights a rabbit with all its strength. However, if it is a partner or a friend, even on the surface, he will show a little serious expression, a little bit. "Okay, I accept your challenge." Sid once again pointed the shadow sword at the opponent, but this time the opponent was Zoro, with the tip of the sword facing down, and said to Zoro, "You just experienced a battle, don't you need to rest?" Zoro said at this time. To be honest, he wanted to face Sid in a complete state. "You underestimate the physical strength of the top strong. Neither me nor Kuruda actually consumed much, so come on," Sid said with a smile. "That's right, let's give him some space and give them a good exchange." Kuruda nodded and said, "Then arrange for everyone to step back a little to give the 2 swordsmen some space to exchange." But at the same time, he also received the voice transmission of the ghost soldier holding the video Den Den Mushi, that is, the video Den Den Mushi had been hung up by the other side. In other words, as soon as Kuruda and Sid's battle ended, the warring states took the initiative to hang up the Den Den Mushi again. However, Kuruda didn't think there was anything wrong with this. Anyway, the show was over and the audience should leave. Besides, the influence had been sent out, so he quietly waited for the reputation value to be harvested in the evening. But at the same time, he believed that since the Navy headquarters had witnessed the whole process and the previous threats, the Navy would definitely come to redeem it. The 2 Navy warships led by the 2 vice admirals and more than 300 elite soldiers, so he deliberately asked Latora to go to the Navy headquarters. So in order to obtain first-hand intelligence, is it necessary? Know who the Navy will send to trouble them, to arrest or eliminate them. With Latora's speed, and the fact that he set off after Lucy's threat, it is estimated that he will soon know who is coming through Latora. However, he speculated that it is very likely to be Garp. After all, this is the East China Sea, the hometown of this heroic vice admiral. Garp will not come unless there is something else that delays him. But what exactly is it? Let's wait for the intelligence to come back. At the same time, everyone stepped back a little after hearing Kuruta's words, and at the same time, they watched this disparity battle intently. At this time, Zoro was also very clear about how strong the opponent in front of him, Sid, was in terms of combat power and swordsmanship. He was also very alert and decided to use all his current strength to face the powerful enemy in front of him. Holding the Wado Ikimonji in his right hand, and the ordinary knife in his left hand and teeth, Zoro is really a 3-sword swordsman. Later, he was able to fight without a sword, and he also became proficient in 1-sword style, 2-sword style, and even 9-sword style. But for now, Zoro is using 3-sword style. Demon Slash. Zoro took the lead and rushed towards Sid at a fast speed. But in Sid's eyes, this was too slow, and he easily blocked it with 1 sword. It can be seen that Zoro has used all his strength, and even the meridians on his arm have emerged, but Sid still easily blocked it with only 1 hand. The gap is huge in the pirate world now. Sid, who was very powerful, thought that Zoro was just an ant in his eyes. He just pushed forward lightly and slashed with a sword, and Zoro was pushed back. If you only have this kind of strength, then there is no need to fight this battle. Sid pretended to be a little contemptuous. Since the other party was already the captain's friend, he should be polite. I won't give up easily. Come on, Tiger Hunter. Zoro roared again. I really don't know how he made a sound with the sword in his mouth. But he is now making a move and rushing towards Sid. Sid, the opponent, was stunned for a while with his firm eyes and will, and smiled lightly. No wonder he was favored by Kuruta. That guy has a good eye. But let's end this farce. Thinking of this, a flash of purple light flashed in Sid's eyes, and he appeared in front of Zoro at a very fast speed, then raised his sword, and with a snap, he directly picked up all 3 of Zoro's swords and flew them out, spinning in the air. Then he suddenly turned around and looked at Zoro, who stopped immediately, sweating profusely, his eyes widened, his mouth opened wide, looking at the shadow-long sword that had been placed on his neck. So fast. At this time, whether it was Zoro or the audience next to him, Luffy, Kobe, the 2 sisters and Alan, they were either stunned or surprised. Obviously, the speed shown by Sid surprised them. Even Kuruta nodded. Speed is undoubtedly one of Sid's best abilities. To be honest, if he didn't have the observation haki and teleportation ability before. If he wants to beat Sid, it is not easy. With the power of chaos, it is indeed very powerful. I lost. Seeing Sid who had put away his sword, Zoro sighed first, and then said a little discouraged. You still have time to grow. I can see that you still have a determination and a firm mind. Try to realize your dream. Anyway, I have no interest in the number 1 swordsman, and I am not a real swordsman. Sid immediately said comfortingly and encouragingly. But these words are still useful. Sid nodded, and it seems that he has really regained some confidence. Maybe, after all, he now knows the existence of domineering. And never give up, never admit defeat, whether it is Zoro or many people in the Straw Hat Pirates, they will have such a spirit. Well, fortunately, you are not injured, and you don't need to find a doctor or anything. Let's stop here today. Anyway, it's just a friendly exchange. By the way, Luffy, what are your plans next? Kuruta first stood up and said something, and then immediately asked Luffy. I plan to find a place to stay and have a good sleep today. I have been drifting on the sea for a long time and have not had a good sleep. I will go out to sea tomorrow, Luffy said with a smile. It is obvious that this usually silly guy still has some ideas. You are already my captain, I will follow you. Zoro smiled. After fighting side by side before, he has long recognized Luffy, whether in strength or spirit, at least not in IQ now. My dream is to be a Navy. I will directly choose to join the branch here, Koby said with some trembling, because he has not forgotten what these Kurudas did before coming here, and what kind of terrifying strength they have. So he is very scared. If he says it now, he will not be killed by the other party directly, right? But wanting to become a Navy soldier is indeed his dream. He must say it now because he doesn't want to be looked down upon. Don't worry, you are not on my list of Navy destruction, and when you get to the Navy, take a closer look. The Navy is not as beautiful as you think. On the contrary, it is very dirty. We only kill those Navy who abuse their private power and oppress civilians like Monka. Kuruda smiled at Koby, which was also to comfort him, don't worry so much. Besides, Koby is a very good person, and he will have a good opportunity in the future. He is even a person with a small plug-in script. He will be a colonel in the future, and even dare to stand up to stop Akainu. Hearing this, Koby was relieved, but still curiously asked, so Mr. Kuruda, what are you and your pirate group going to do next? Hearing this question, everyone immediately attracted attention and looked at Kuruda. Even the little girl who had not left yet was the same. I will continue my journey in the East China Sea. I want to continue to invite some friends I once knew to board the ship, Kuruda said with a smile. But in fact, let's not say this sentence first. Dignity was wrong. Wait till tonight. If not, wait a few days. Anyway, before the people sent by the Navy arrive, it is estimated that the reputation value will be 100,000 by then. By then, we will know who the people sent by the Navy are. Prescribe the right medicine for the case, summon a partner with special ability to restrain a powerful villain from another world. This is also the most important thing for Kuruda at present. His pirate ship is an elite route, similar to the Red Hair Pirates and the Straw Hat Pirates in the future. Only when there are more people and more strong people can they survive better in this sea, and even help him become a big villain. However, for now, the focus is still on preparing for the Navy in 3 days. Even taking the initiative, he doesn't like to be passive. Unless it is a trick to lure the enemy deep into his territory. But after listening to Kuruda's words, everyone was still very surprised, even unbelievable. They already knew Kuruda's strength and vision. Those who could be invited on board as partners must be strong people like Sid. Everyone was very surprised. Is this still the East China Sea, which is known as the weakest sea? Are there so many strong people hiding? But at the same time, only Sid himself knows it. He smiled slightly. It seems that this captain, who is also a time traveler, is going to summon a new partner from other worlds. I'm really looking forward to it. What kind of ideas and strength do the villains from other worlds have? Although I am looking forward to who the next partner you said is, Kuruda. But it seems that we will not be on the same road, so see you next time. Luffy said directly with that familiar smile. He was very glad that he could meet a friend like Kuruda this time, but he also understood that the other party was also the captain of the pirate group. Their paths were destined not to be together. Any team should have its own actions. Luffy, whether we or Kuruda and others will set off tomorrow, it's too early for you to say it now, isn't it? Zoro said speechlessly. He suddenly realized that the captain he knew seemed to have a bad brain. Ah, really? Haha, I actually forgot. Luffy smiled and touched his head again, making everyone feel helpless again. This is a completely stupid boy. Soon, after chatting for a while, everyone separated. Luffy and the other two went to find a place to stay in the town tonight, and the little girl also went home. As for Kuruda and others, Sid immediately said that he would move some of his belongings to the ship. Alan was immediately puzzled and asked Sid how he knew they had a big ship. But Sid said that he had witnessed the sea battle of Alan and his men, and naturally saw the bull. Hearing this, Alan's suspicions disappeared immediately, including the two sisters. Soon, everyone helped Sid move all his belongings, which he bought here this morning, onto the bull. It was good that it could fly. Then Sid went back to his bedroom to decorate his room. After entering the ship, Kuruda told him about the specific rooms for the three of them, and asked Sid to choose one on the bedroom floor. But in fact, Sid's room had been chosen a long time ago, and he even slept there last night. However, He couldn't tell Alan and Lucy and Luke about this, so Kuruda made up a white lie now. At the same time, he immediately smiled and said, "To celebrate that we finally have a swordsman on the ship and recruit new partners, let's hold a small welcome party on the ship today." Lucy, Luke, and Alan were very happy to hear that a party was going to be held. Obviously, they like banquets very much, mainly because they were servants of Kuruda back then, and they like banquets the most, because only then, when their lives were still hard, could they eat a lot of food, and Kuruda took them to the banquet at that time, so the three of them also like banquets very much. So after hearing this, the three of them immediately went down to make arrangements. Needless to say, Alan, as the chef on the ship, naturally went to cook. The two sisters began to arrange on the deck, so that the whole deck had a little taste of banquet, or in other words, the banquet was held on the deck. As for Kuruda, he also moved out some necessary items, such as tables, and then went back to his bedroom, but before returning to the bedroom cabin, he said something. "I'm going to contact a new partner, using a Den Den Mushi." However, although he said so, although there was indeed a Den Den Mushi on the bowl, in fact, this guy was just exhausted in the morning and noon, and wanted to go back to sleep first. He really deserves to be a big villain, a little shameless. But in fact, although Kuruda took a quick look, Sid also went back to his bedroom and lay on the bed after decorating his room. But at this time, he was holding the battle instrument and connecting with Latora. Watching Latora flying in the blue sky and white clouds at high altitude, flying towards the Navy headquarters. At an altitude of nearly several thousand meters, in the pirate world, few creatures live here, even some birds can't fly here. So no one would notice Latora flying at such a high place. Fortunately, Kuruda can also understand a little map, so now the direction of Latora was right. Not long after, Latora actually came to the top of the Navy headquarters. At the same time, the other party would not know that there was a big bird here. Kuruda knew that whether it was Alan or the two sisters, or the ninja corps that had already been revealed, as well as his and Sid's strength. In addition, all of them had already revealed their conqueror haki. The Navy would not fail to send high-level officials this time, especially Garp, who also belonged to the East China Sea. There were only a few high-level officials in the Navy, including the two alternate admirals. They only needed to focus on finding the people who were about to go to sea. Sure enough, he soon passed this point and found it with the help of Latora's vision. It turned out that Tautu and Chatten were driving a top-level Navy warship, standing on the deck and lying on a chair. Latora not only had good eyesight, but also good hearing. Soon, Kuruda heard the conversation between the two. Hurry up and catch up with Vice Admiral Garp and Admiral Aokiji." At this time, Momotobu on the deck immediately ordered his Navy soldiers to hurry up. "Momotobu, don't be so anxious, we have 3 days, and Vice Admiral Garp and his men have been on the road for a while. Besides, we have Den Den Mushi, so we can let Vice Admiral Garp and his men wait for us after they arrive in the East China Sea." Chatten, who seemed to be sleeping next to him, yawned and said, "Chatten, can you be a little more serious? Sister, he said that the opponent we are going to face this time is not ordinary. The other side has 3 admiral candidates of our level, and there are 2 admirals, and there are also very magical ninja troops. Vice Admiral Garp and his men may not be able to deal with it. We can go there in time, and we can have more hope. Besides, those pirates still have our own hostages in their hands. We must take them back immediately. If we exceed the time, they will really kill people. Besides, our Navy warship has not yet accelerated." Tautu said with regret. For this Chatten, who doesn't look very good, but has the same strength as herself, Tautu, who is a great beauty even in the pirate world, is also very disgusted. After all, as a beautiful and powerful female swordsman, she also knows that it is time for her to find another half at her age, but this is a world that looks at appearance and many other qualities after all. Although Tautu still recognizes Chatten in terms of strength. But whether in appearance or character, it's better to stay where it's cool. This guy has pursued me more than 100 times, and I won't refuse. Okay, you keep doing it. Really, why do you say so much all of a sudden? But when Chatten heard that Momosuke said so much at once, he felt that his head was about to explode. But now he is very clear that he has made Momosuke unhappy, so he immediately gave up the idea of confessing again. But if Momosuke knew this idea now, he would probably be so angry that he would draw his sword directly. I talk to you about work, and you talk to me about love. Hearing these words through Latora, I didn't expect that the relationship between these two people was really funny, just like in the anime, and even Kuruda laughed. But he also got information from this, so he immediately told Latora to follow them. According to them, since they are going to meet up with Garp and others, it is better to grasp the movements of these people. Such a difficult task was naturally given to Latora, who would not be discovered by them. Latora would be wronged if he could not go to the sea to fish for food in the next few days. But at the same time, he also thought about the opponent's lineup. Those Navy soldiers would naturally be left to the ninja soldiers to deal with. Anyway, when the cooling time is over, a large wave of nearly 500 ninja soldiers can be summoned. In addition to the current ones, those Navy soldiers don't need to be taken care of at all. The focus is still the 4 strong men of the opponent. Tautu can let the 2 sisters deal with it. As a swordsman, Tautu can only deal single damage according to his understanding, and even can't even use the 6 styles of the Navy. Then, the 2 sisters who have the ability to fly very fast and master the ability of the twin fruit will be able to deal with Tautu at that time, and they can even suppress it all the time. As for Chatten, he should be similar to the 3 admirals. His physical skills are the 6 styles of the Navy, and he can use hockey. According to the information he learned before, this guy is very likely to be the user of the earth fruit, which can create earth walls or earth pigs. He has strong combat and defense capabilities and is more useful on land. However, since there is sea everywhere, his combat effectiveness is greatly weakened. Therefore, he will become a candidate admiral of the Navy. Of course, he is probably already an admiral. To be honest, this guy should still be a little stronger than Tautu, mainly because his devil fruit ability can't really be brought into play on the sea. But Teoti is a fierce earth beast after all, and the fantasy beast species is much stronger than the natural fruit, so Alan will have no problem dealing with Chatten. The strength of the candidate admiral should be against the candidate admiral of the Navy, and Alan and the 2 sisters have the advantage of Conqueror's hockey and can use entanglement. At the same time, let these 3 experience more battles. With their age and talent, it is estimated that they are not far from being promoted to admiral. Then the remaining ones are Aokiji and Garp. When the time comes, he will definitely ask him, Sid and the new partner to join forces to deal with these 2 people. At the same time, Aokiji's arrival this time can be regarded as an experiment. The 3 admirals of the current generation of the Navy are all unprecedented monsters, especially they are all top-level, natural devil fruit ability users. Although in terms of strength, Aokiji may be the weakest among the 3, the key point is that the destructive power of ice is indeed not as good as magma and light. On the contrary, in terms of control, even Akainu and Kizaru are inferior. Kuruda is also a natural devil fruit ability user, so he knows very well that the natural system, especially the top natural devil fruit, after eating it, the ability users are all natural disasters of the walker, and any of the 3 admirals has the ability to easily cause natural disasters. Even in the original work, Akainu and Aokiji fought for 10 days and 10 nights to compete for the position of marshal, and even destroyed the island, turning it into an island of half ice and half fire. However, natural devil fruit users are not only good at destroying processes, but also have strong ability to save their lives and survive, as mentioned before, because they have a special ability, elementalization. They are completely immune to physical damage and most energy damage, and can even move freely and fly for a short time in this state. Unless it is a special and powerful energy attack, as well as the power of armed color or the entanglement of domineering color, it can completely attack and harm the elemental natural devil fruit user. In other words, the key is domineering, but Sid can't do it now, but the problem is that he has magic power, maybe he can hurt the elemental ability user. In the previous battle, Kuruda actually tried it intentionally, but the power and characteristics of chaotic energy, he could clearly see that Sid's magic power was annihilated. So it can't be tried at all. At least it doesn't work for chaotic energy, but this time Aokiji is here, it's just right to experiment whether Sid's magic power can hurt natural devil fruit users. If not, then Sid also needs to start practicing domineering according to the super fast 3-color domineering practice method. But now Kuruda is least afraid of the natural devil fruit ability users. At that time, at worst, he can let him deal with Aokiji, and then Sid and the new partner will deal with Garp. Anyway, according to his requirements, the new partner summoned this time can suppress Garp a little in terms of ability. After all, there are still strong physical masters stronger than Garp in the world. Moreover, he has some other trump cards, such as monsters and energy cannons on the bowl. He is confident that he can fight back the Navy's offensive this time. But the key point is, who is this new second partner? After all, monsters and energy cannons can only play an interfering role in such a top-level battle. But for the system, although it is a little unreliable, it can still be trusted. In other words, he believes in the powerful villain summoned this time. Thinking of this, Kuruda nodded with satisfaction, so that's it for now. But at the same time, he really felt a little sleepy in bed, and soon closed his eyes, snoring very rhythmically from his mouth. Obviously, maybe he was too tired this morning, and Kuruda had fallen asleep. But he did everything well today. The fallen pirates only have a few members now, but their reputation has almost reached the new world. So even if he fell asleep now, the system is still working. Congratulations on getting 250 reputation points from Doflamingo. Congratulations on getting 600 reputation points from Red Hair Shanks. Congratulations on getting 600 reputation points from Whitebeard. Congratulations on getting 550 reputation points from Kaido and Charlotte Linlin. Congratulations on getting 900 reputation points from the 3 admirals of the Navy. Congratulations on getting 400 reputation points from Crane. Congratulations on getting 600 reputation points from Garp. Congratulations on getting 600 reputation points from Sengoku. Congratulations on getting. Just like that, because the influence this time is greater than before, it is natural to get more reputation points brought by emotions. The originally few reputation points are constantly rising. But Kuruda, who has long been worried about being constantly disturbed, has already closed these messages. Because even people in a good mood can't stand this. Soon, in the following time, although Kuruda fell asleep, it was still very lively on the bowl. Alan was cooking, and the sounds of cooking were one after another. The fragrance spread throughout the cabin and even leaked outside, floating in the sea breeze. The 2 sisters decorated the entire deck with ribbons and balloons, and even wrote a banner on it, which read, "Warmly welcome Sid Kagano to join the fallen pirates." Obviously, the 2 sisters were very attentive to the arrangement of the banquet. On the other side, in the cabin on the bedroom level, after arranging his bedroom, Sid leaned on the bed to rest for a while. To be honest, he had never done such a job before, and usually this kind of work was left to his little maids. Thinking of the shadow courtyard on the other side, Sid leaned on the bed and said, "I don't know how they are doing after I leave now. But before I left and came here, I left a note saying that I was going to go out and play for a while, and there was nothing going on over there, so I thought there shouldn't be anything." After thinking for a long time, Sid felt that the things over there were almost finished by him, and there shouldn't be any danger over there, so he was relieved immediately. Time soon came to night, and Kuruda and Sid came out after sleeping for a while. Although it was already night and dark, the lights were turned on, and the 2 sisters took out some neon lights for the banquet. After all of them were lit, it was still very bright, beautiful and warm. At the same time, the more beautiful natural colors had almost a large table of food, and the tempting fragrance filled the air. Alan obviously had prepared a large table of food by now. Soon, the 5 people sat down around the table, and Kuruda directly picked up the wine glass filled with wine and said, "First of all, welcome Sid, my old friend, to successfully join our pirate group and serve as a swordsman on the ship. At the same time, everyone has worked hard these days. Have a good meal today. Come on, as the captain, I will take the lead and toast." Cheers +4. Alan, Lucy, Luke, and Sid also picked up the wine glasses one after another and said with a smile. Then this banquet was successfully held. Everyone enjoyed the food and drank delicious wine or juice. "Brother Ku, don't the ghost ninjas need to eat?" But seeing the ninja soldiers still guarding the Navy on the 2 Navy warships, Luke asked curiously. "Don't worry, they don't need to eat. Shadow creatures are not normal creatures. They don't need to eat normally like us." Kuruda smiled. "That's really a magical creature," Alan said in surprise while eating a piece of steak. "So it's a creature made of shadows. It's really interesting. Sid also smiled, because his attributes in the original world seemed to be inclined to dark attributes, and he also had the ability of shadows. So now he naturally has a little interest in the Ghost Army. Everyone continued to eat while chatting. As for the two Navy warships now, the Navy prisoners on them almost wanted to die at this time, especially Huo Shaoshan and Ghost Spider. Seeing Kuruda and others enjoying food on the ship, they were so angry. A dignified vice admiral and a dignified Navy soldier was captured by pirates, and in the East China Sea. It was a great shame. Therefore, many people directly shouted, saying that if they had the guts, they would let me go and beat me again. But what awaited them was the sticks of the Ghost Corps. They were captured and still yelled. Do they have the consciousness of being a prisoner? Almost 2 hours later, it was almost late at night. At about 9 o'clock, the banquet was over. Originally, Alan, the two sisters, and even Sid wanted to help clean up, but they were stopped by Kuruda, and then they looked dumbfounded. The work of cleaning up the mess and washing dishes was all done by some ninja soldiers coming from the Navy warships. It turns out that they can not only fight, but also do these trivial things. Lucy said with her cherry mouth open, a little stunned. Of course, the other three were not much better. They never thought that the Ghost Corps could do this. But this is actually normal. In Jackie Chan's adventures, Xiao Yu took the Ghost Ninja Corps to take care of his daily life, and Lisu even used the Claw Shadow Corps to play tennis with him. It really proves that the Ghost Corps can do many things. Okay, it's getting late, everyone go back and rest, we have to set off tomorrow morning. Kuruda said. Everyone also returned to their bedrooms. However, after Sid entered his room, he suddenly found that there was a piece of paper and beads on his desk. He immediately picked it up and looked at it. He was a little stunned for a while. This is the teleportation energy bead. Hold it with both hands and close your eyes, and you can feel the ability of teleportation. We all have it now, and you are the only one missing. Kuruduru. This is what was written on the note. After reading it, Sid stared at the bead in his hand and sighed. You are worthy of being the owner of the system. This boss has not followed you in vain. But at the same time, he immediately put the note down and began to feel the energy in the bead. Soon, Sid had completely acquired the ability of teleportation, and Sid, who knew how powerful and important this ability was, smiled immediately. Meanwhile, on the other side, Alan was basically sleeping soundly. This was his character. As long as he was not on duty, he would basically spend the night sleeping in his bedroom at night. In addition, there was indeed a lot of work to do on weekdays. The two sisters were relatively better. After all, the terrain of the East China Sea was not complicated, and there was no bad weather like the New World. As navigators, they actually had very little work to do. They were playing chess without feeling sleepy at all. For now, the daily life of the fallen pirates is still very good. Basically, there is nothing to do at night. They just play or sleep directly. Even Sid was so happy that he fell asleep because he had obtained the ability to teleport. Now, the only one who is still working is probably Kuruda, the captain. He found a chair and sat down, to be precise, the chair in front of the desk. System, how much reputation do I have now? Kuruda said directly to the system in his mind. The system also made a sound soon, in Kuruda's mind. According to statistics, the host now has 172,600 reputation points. Hearing that there are so many reputation points, not only do I have 100,000 reputation points to summon new partners, but I also have 70,000 reputation points, which can buy a lot of good things. Kuruda was overjoyed and couldn't help laughing. Because in the next 3 days, I don't have to worry about facing the Navy. Haha, let's see who will crush whom. But I actually have extra reputation points, and they are all 70,000. Then I will buy other items first, and the new partner will be the last. Seeing that there are so many points, Kuruda decided to make up for other shortcomings first, or buy some useful items to face the Navy 3 days later. As for the current miscellaneous soldiers, the Ghost Shadow Ninja Corps does have enough. However, among the 9 Ghost Shadow Corps, the Ninja Corps is not very good at frontal combat. They are better at reconnaissance and sneak attacks. Many regiments are better at frontal combat than them. So if you can buy other regiments, it would be better to get the entire Ghost Shadow Corps together. The system will call out the tokens of the other 8 Ghost Shadow Corps, especially the prices. After thinking about it for a while, Kuruda decided to buy the other regiments of the Ghost Shadow Corps first, but it was impossible to buy them all at once. He decided to buy 2 more according to the needs. Soon, the prices of the other 8 regiments were also announced by the system. Ghost Legion Thornblade Regiment Token. As long as you have this token, you can summon and command the Thornblade Regiment in the Ghost Legion. You need 4,300 reputation points. Ghost Legion Night Bat Regiment Token. As long as you have this token, you can summon and command the Night Bat Regiment in the Ghost Legion. You need 3,600 reputation points. Ghost Legion Troll Regiment Token. As long as you have this token, you can summon and command the Troll Regiment in the Ghost Legion. You need 4,400 reputation points. Ghost Legion Warrior Regiment Token. As long as you have this token, you can summon and command the Warrior Regiment in the Ghost Legion. You need 4,500 reputation points. Ghost Legion Alien Regiment Token. As long as you have this token, you can summon and command the Alien Group in the Ghost Corps. 4,100 reputation points are required. Quote. Ghost Corps Devouring Shadow Group Token. As long as you have this token, you can summon and command the Devouring Shadow Group in the Ghost Corps. 3,900 reputation points are required. Quote. Ghost Corps Hunting Pincers Group Token. As long as you have this token, you can summon and command the Hunting Pincers Group in the Ghost Corps. 4,200 reputation points are required. Ghost Corps Thornblade Group Token. As long as you have this token, you can summon and command the Thornblade Group in the Ghost Corps. 4,700 reputation points are required. Quote. Seeing that the 8 major groups have now appeared, after thinking about the combat capabilities and strengths of each of their groups, Kuruda said directly. System, I want to buy the tokens of the Helmet Shadow Group and the Troll Group. Because thinking of the current opponents, they are just those small soldiers of the Navy. According to his understanding, those people can only know a few moves of the Navy 6 styles at most. Most of those people don't know how to use domineering. Even if they really know how to use domineering, it is estimated that there are only a few people. Most of them still rely on weapons, especially guns. Then, among the Ghost Army, the Troll Corps and the Helmeted Corps, whose defense is absolutely the best, are now the best choice. Let alone the price of these 2 legions, he can accept it. The strong physical strength of the Troll Corps brings defense and attack power, plus each soldier of the Troll Corps is basically a big guy over 2 meters and 5 meters tall. The Navy soldiers are like it was like a hyena facing an elephant. As for the helmets, no matter how sharp their samurai swords were or how defensive their armor was, they were not something the Navy soldiers could contend with. And they were basically 2 meters tall, which could also cause some psychological pressure to the Navy soldiers at that time. Moreover, most people would be scared when they saw the Ghost Corps for the first time, especially at close range, because they were shadow creatures, or ghosts. You have consumed 8,900 reputation points. As the system began to settle, the reputation points on the system panel naturally decreased by 8,900, and now the total was 163,700 reputation points. At the same time, on the desk next to them, the tokens of the helmets and the trolls also appeared. Kuruda picked it up. Just like the token of the Ninja Corps had the word, I, written on it, the token of the Troll Corps had the word, A diaresis, written on it, and the helmets had the word, A half, written on it. He looked at his room and found it was big enough, so Kuruda picked up 2 tokens on the spot and summoned a Troll Corps soldier and a Helmet soldier respectively. Soon, a large man walked out of the shadow next to him, and a warrior in armor emerged from the shadow on the ground next to him. Both of them were nearly 2 meters tall and looked very oppressive. But they were all wearing black clothes or armor, gray-green skin, and blood-red eyes. Soon, the faces of the 2 appeared in Kuruda's eyes. Name: Ghost Troll Soldier. Age: none. Gender: none. Introduction: From the world of Jackie Chan Adventures, a special kind of shadow creature, huge, with high physical defense but slow movement. Ability type: Hercules meat shield, good at frontal defense. General strength: school level. Weapon: none. Name: Ghost Helmet Shadow Soldier. Age: none. Gender: none. Introduction: From the world of Jackie Chan Adventures, a special kind of shadow creature, good at Japanese swordsmanship, wearing hard black shadow armor. Ability type: Samurai, good at fighting and swordsmanship. General strength. School level. Weapon. Black Shadow Katana. However, although they are both school level, the strength of these two is still much stronger than that of the ninja core, at least 1 to 2 small levels apart. However, Kuruda is still very satisfied with this. After all, the advantage of the ghost core lies in its large number, fearlessness of death, and unconditional obedience to orders. After ordering the 2 soldiers to return to the shadows, Kuruda directly opened the monster column again. Although he could not buy those super monsters and top monsters, he could still buy low-level monsters and mid-level monsters, and the size and physical strength of the monsters were much stronger than the ghost core. If the ghost core did not have the advantage in numbers, it would just sell a ghost soldier, and the value of the ghost token would be lower than that of an ordinary monster. Even a ghost soldier only needs 2 to 5 reputation points. And even the 3 monsters bought before were only mid-level monsters. All the monsters above have more than 16,000 reputation points. So don't underestimate the monsters from the Ultraman world, even if their strength has been weakened. But if it is really an endless ghost core, ordinary monsters are really not worth it. Kuruda looked at the monster column for a long time. I bought 3 of the most classic and famous monsters. The ancient monster Golzon, the ancient dragon Melba, and the skeleton monster Red King. Needless to say, the first 2, Tiga itself is a very popular work in Ultraman, and the style is also good. Golzon and Melba can form the fusion monster Golba, and at the same time, they can form the 3 emperors and 5 emperors with the other 3 monsters, so they are naturally very famous. Then there is the famous corn cob Red King. Although his head is a little small, his IQ is not good, and he only knows how to use brute force, his strength is indeed unquestionable. Although he has not defeated Ultraman's fighter plane, he has also made Ultraman suffer a lot. Kuruda bought these 3 monsters again. Red King has 5800 reputation points, Golzon has 5500 reputation points, and Melba has 5400 reputation points. Another 16,700 reputation points were spent. Since the 3 monsters were of no use for the time being, they were naturally stored in the ultimate battle instrument first. After replenishing the biological power, Kuruda set his sights on some technological weapons. Because as the saying goes, technology is the primary productive force. Only when technology is strong will it not be beaten. This is him in the previous life, but now in the pirate world, technology is also very important in this world. Otherwise, scientists would not be highly valued by any forces in the pirate world. For example, Vegapunk has been firmly controlled by the world government and the navy. So soon, Kuruda opened the column of weapons, especially those that can be used on ships. After all, fighting in the pirate world is basically a naval battle. Soon, Kuruda took a fancy to an item, or a high-tech, not only what he needs now, but also can make up for some of the gaps. He has faced it several times and no longer wants to face it again. Now he can finally solve it. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.